so anyway, so that afterwards, we were together for a little while later, and it ended up being that he was not going to make any change.
Wow.
He decided, that he was going to continue to do what he was doing all along. And my decision had to come, to make a decision to be responsible and to not live on the roller coaster that we were going, like I said before, up and down, emotionally, financially. And it ended up, I asked him to leave. And there was a final thing that happened where, he showed up and he was like insisting that this is my home. I'm not leaving.
Who was paying for the home?
It got physical where you have to go. You have to leave now. And he had to move out and leave at my request.
Who was paying the house note?
Well, he was saying he was paying it, but I found out he wasn't. So that was when he stopped paying the house note, and I found out that we were not. We were 3 months behind almost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was going to be my life. It wasn't going to change. And so somebody had to be responsible and make the final decision. You'll have to read the book because there's a lot more details in the final, end and all, like this is over. And so that way the readers of the book will get, the details of that incident that happened.
So guys, you're going to have to buy the book.
You'll have to buy the book, yes, to get all the details.
Yeah.
The story is really good.
It's really juicy.
Yes, and it involves wooden spoons. So we will definitely go into more details as I, share the stories in my book. But for this interview, so I wanted you, to just share with you that it was a difficult decision to make, but I made the right decision.
Yeah.
And we still were friends. It took a while. I will say that I had to walk in forgiveness daily.
Yes.
Because there were things that it was ongoing that I had to deal with in support and talking about the children and communications with their dad.
Yeah.
And that one of us had to be more responsible and take it on, even though it was difficult to take it on.
Yeah.
Someone, and God chose me to do that. Because I guess all the trials and tribulation in the marriage led up to this, that if I did it in the marriage, I can do it on my own.
Exactly. And
so that's what I did. And having 2 children, and we shared some of the responsibility because they did see their dad and his side of the family. I never denied him that.
Yeah.
And
that's good because you could have.
Yeah, and he wanted to have those relationships with him. Most of the time, it was at his convenience.
Yeah.
Because he continued to gamble and do what he wanted to do. And so I just accepted that. That's what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change people.
Yeah.
You can only change yourself and the way you look at things, your perspective.
Exactly.
And in order for me not to be eaten away in my heart of hearts, the rejection, the neglect, the abuse, because, it's also verbal abuse that was going on back and forth.
I can imagine.
And the isolation, like just knowing that I'm not alone. There are other people going through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I felt alone. I felt at times in my lonely of lonelies, that I had to press into God.
Yeah.
During those times when my kids would go away and I would miss them, and I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Okay.
Ain't that funny how you want a break from your kids, and then when they go, you thinking, okay, what do I do? Because you're not used to it.
Exactly. And I had full custody, so I had them all the time. So it was like they go away on the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I had to adjust to letting them go and finding things to do for myself.
Exactly.
But then there comes a point in time where you get tired of going to lunch and shopping and doing all these things. That I just want to be with my children. I want to enjoy them.
And
right?
you miss them. You
and
genuinely miss them.
Yes.
After you said, I need a break.
I take my little bubble bath and light the candles and play the music and all that. But I was like missing them.
Exactly.
That's great. That's wonderful. But then where are my children?
Exactly.
I want to wake up with them in the morning, kiss their little faces, and enjoy them, while they're little.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that was on my heart. So I know that God blessed me, and the childhood that I was raised, I miss that.
Yeah.
Like I never had that.
Yeah.
But what God gave me was my family, and I used to think, well, I'm a broken family.
Yeah.
And what God showed me is, no, you're a family.
Yeah.
You are making it possible for them to enjoy both you and their dad, their mom and their dad.
Yeah. You may not live under the same roof, but they're still getting both experiences.
Yes. And the love of a father and the love of a mother.
Yeah, because you can't replace one with the other. It doesn't work.
That's right.
Like single parent homes, all the time, that other parent, that child needs both perspectives. Perspectives of mom, because we parent different. Mothers and fathers don't have the same, we as women are more caring and compassionate and have more sympathy for our kids, whereas their dads are more structured and they're the disciplinarians normally, and they bring something different to the table that the kid can't get from the mom.
Exactly.
They just can't. I don't care how much a mother tries to run a household, that child will always be lacking something that he would have got from the male parent.
Yes. And especially my son.
Yeah.
He wanted his dad.
Yeah.
And he wanted his mommy too. I will say, he used to grab my legs, mommy, hold me, mommy.
Yeah.
So he was also like a mama's boy when he was a baby.
Yeah.
And I love that. I used to pick him up and dance with them. I like to dance. I like music. I would dance with them and hold them, and he would laugh, and so much joy.
Yeah.
And then Brandy having a brother, a sibling, because even though she had two sisters, they would come and go.
Yeah.
They weren't with us full time.
Yeah. But having somebody there in the house with her, she was like a live-in playmate. Yes.
She was being raised with her brother. Yeah. She loved him and took care of him, and was wonderful as a sister, a big sister to him. So I love that about her. She would correct him and stuff, and I'd have to say, Brandy, I'm the mom.
Exactly.
Well, Mom, you didn't see what he did, tattling on him. And so I love that about her. She was a mother hen kind of towards him. Yeah. Because she was 7 years older.
Yeah.
She's a big sister.
Yeah.
So anyway, mature for her age.
Yeah.
We used to call her my adult child. So what a blessing that it was to see them together, and they got along. They didn't really fight.
Yeah.
With children that are closer together, they tend to be fighting and back and forth with each other.
Yeah. Not
so much with my daughter and my son.
Yeah.
I didn't have that issue.
Yeah.
And that's a blessing.
That was my husband. Him and his sister are 12 years apart, and they never fought. She was like the mother figure. So a lot of times his mom was working and she was at the house taking care of him. And he regards her as his second mom.
Okay. Wow.
And today it's still like that.
Yeah.
They still have that bond, and he respects her, and it's like, so he grew up. That's familiar to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is a blessing that he had her.
It is.
And that she loved him that way.
Yes.
For him that way. Nurtured him.
And she made a lot of sacrifices too, because like she didn't get to be a cheerleader in school because she had to come home and help take care of her little brother. And but so she missed out on some things that other kids were able to do. But I mean, I'm thinking that at this point, me and her haven't had this conversation, but I'm thinking she feels it was worth it. Looking back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And her daughter was a cheerleader. So she still got the experience cheerleading from...
Yes, through her daughter.
Yes, through her daughter.
Experience.
Yeah.
Well, that's how God is.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that you desire in your heart. He knows our desires of our heart.
Uh-huh. And
what
he'll
he does is
make it happen.
Yep. Yeah, it may not be the way you think it's going to be.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I felt that way with my children, that I was living my childhood and enjoying my children's childhood.
Yeah.
That was healing from my past.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And that I wanted them to have a healthy childhood. Even though I was, not married to their dad anymore. Yeah. We were going to have a healthy family.
And actually, that might have been the best thing, because if you guys were living together, that would have been stress in the household.
Oh, it was.
And that would affect them. So
yes,
it was better that
yes.
they had two separate houses to go to.
Yes. In our situation, it did.
Yeah.
It was absolutely a blessing.
Yeah.
And so, let me just say that, I started to focus on work and working with women, because I work with women. I got promoted from the sportswear on the first floor, Saks, to the second floor, which is Bridge Sportswear, and its designer area. Okay. Pretty much could sell anything in the store, whether it be jewelry, a $7,000 piece in the jewelry store. I'd go down, bring my client downstairs if they're looking for a gift. Go up to the men's department. So it was a department store, Saks Fifth Avenue, and it was 3 floors. So the men's floor is on the 3rd floor in lingerie, and then the Bridge Sportswear and designer wear and St. John department is on the 2nd floor, and then the 1st floor is the cosmetics and fragrances and accessories, Louis Vuitton, all the designer brands. And so it was glamorous. It was beautiful. Everybody was made up in the makeup department, makeovers and stuff like that. Yeah. They were doing music was going on. It was fun. It was festive, and everybody just looked like they got out of a magazine or something. Yeah. In the store, and that was our dress code. I mean, we had to dress to the 10s to work there. Yeah. So that was like heaven to me.
How was the money?
I loved it.
Did the money support that?
Well, that's the thing. So with the sportswear department, we had, I was there about 10 years. But during this time, they had all kinds of events going on, fashion shows in the store. When I first started working there, they would have meetings on the first floor, and they would have catered like coffee and danishes and breakfast for the employees. Okay, for our meetings. And they would introduce certain designers that would come with the lines and products that were new, a new product for the season. Yeah. And introduce everybody. So we had product knowledge meetings. Yeah. So everybody knew what we were promoting in the store. And I loved it. And it was giving us opportunities to grow in the commissions that we were selling things in other departments. So we were aware of other departments and their specials and their events that were going on. So everybody's on the same page. And so for us, they ended up having specialists for different designers, like an Ellen Tracy specialist, a Dana Buchman specialist, a Chanel specialist. I mean, all of the designers. Okay? And this is when really designers and the department stores were very generous to their employees. Yeah. Because they wanted to promote their lines. Yeah. And their product. Yeah. And you talk it up, you get excited, and you get all your clients and get on the phone and get them in the stores for these events, these sale days, fashion show days. There was a lot of activity always going on. So we were all informed. There was conventions that were going on in the city, that we were expecting a lot of shoppers, and they would have promotions to bring all the business into the stores, for us to sell. Wow. And that was our job, to sell. And so I have been one of the top salespeople in the store. There's like the top 10 salespeople. Yeah. And they would be certificates, and they would give you recognition for your business and how you're produced. And of course, you have the meetings where you're going to increase every year, because if you're there 10 years, you're going to increase every year. They expect you to do more and more and more.
Yeah.
And so my friend Jennifer and I, and there was a lot of other ladies that I worked with, but Jen and I were pretty much partners in the department, Bridge Sportswear department. We worked together a lot. And we would have conversations while we were working there, and events that were coming up. And, I'm skipping, there's a person that I met, that I dated in that time when I divorced. I actually got a divorce from my husband, and I did start dating someone.
Okay.
And I was introduced to him at a bike event, at
a motorcycle event?
Bar. Motorcycle, yes,
wow.
On the River Road. And I met him. He was riding a motorcycle, but I went with a friend, my friend Pauline, to this River Shack, is what the name of the bar was.
Okay.
And it was on Wednesday nights, or bikers nights.
Okay.
And I went out there with my friend. She had a anesthesiologist, a friend that was going to meet her. He had just bought a motorcycle. And he was interested in dating her, and asked if she would meet him there. He wanted to show her his motorcycle.
Okay.
And I didn't go to church. Normally I would go to church on a Wednesday. And I didn't. The church was canceled for that Wednesday, and I didn't go that night. I ended up going with her, and I had a babysitter. My mother watched the babies, and I said, okay, I'll meet you out there. And so we went to the River Shack. Actually, we went together at the River Shack, and he met us there.
Okay.
He rode the motorcycle. And it was that night that I saw eye contact. It was really packed. I've never seen anything like it. They must have had 100 bikes parked along the river.
Wow.
Road. Yes. And down the street, motorcycles. And so that was when everybody was riding bikes, motorcycles. And they were out there on a Wednesday night. And then on the weekends, you'd see them riding like 30 motorcycles down the street, going to the French Quarter. And so I ended up meeting, the guy there, her friend. And we stayed and we talked, and we had a couple of drinks there, and we socialized. And I caught eye contact with this man that walked by. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and then he was leaving. And he said that, later on we met up again, and come to find out, he had approached me several times, but then somebody else beat him to it. To say hello. Yeah. And so he didn't know, stood in the background, because he didn't know if I was with anybody. Yeah. But he wanted to meet me. But then it was an hour or two later, he left. And as he was walking out, he caught my eye, I caught his eye, and then he left. So that evening, my friend Pauline and her friend said, well, why don't we go get a nightcap? And it was at Amberjack's on the river. on the lake. And I said, okay. So we all went out there to the bar and met, believe it or not, walked in, saw some friends there, and he was there. The guy that
walked by?
Yes. He was there. And there was a table of women. They were at a bridal, what is it called? The bridal
shower?
Yes.
Wow.
A bridesmaid night out. Someone was getting married, and it was their bridal party. Yeah. And they were there. And so my friend Pauline knew one of the ladies, Jean, that was there. She was a hairdresser. And Pauline introduced me, to everybody that was sitting at the table. So we sat down with them. And the guy she was with, he was like, I'll take you all for a ride if you want to go on a bike ride, he was giving rides. And I said, okay, yeah, come and get me. So we were out there. As we were sitting there and talking, and he ordered drinks and everything. So the guy, his name's Hank, went over to Jean. He knew Jean, Pauline's friend, and asked her if she could introduce us. He wanted to meet me. He saw me at River Shack and wanted her to introduce us. and asked her questions, and she didn't really know me. And she says, well, let me go ask her if she would be interested in meeting you.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came over and she said, look, I know this person, not real well, but I know him.
Yeah.
Eligible bachelor. He has a restaurant on St. Charles Avenue, and he wants to meet you. He saw you at the River Shack. Would you be interested in meeting him? He wants me to come over here and ask you because he wants to be introduced to you. And I said, well, do you know him? That seems very gentlemanly-like. I've never had anybody say that.
Mm-hmm.
They want to meet me and have someone introduce us.
Mm-hmm. How special.
Well, sure. Yeah, I said, that's pretty neat. I said, okay, sure, I would love to meet him. And so she brought him over and introduced us. And he was talking to all the ladies at the table, and, very friendly, and business owner, attorney as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's an entrepreneur, knows how to talk to women and stuff, flirting with the women and stuff like that. So I had to go to the bathroom. So I got up to excuse myself and went, oh, Pauline, I'll be back. I got to go to the bathroom. And on the way back out of the bathroom, he was waiting for me to talk to me.
Wow.
And he said, I wanted to talk to you, but I asked Jean if she would introduce us.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were with all those other women, and I really wanted to talk to you.
Mm.
So would you have a seat with me and so I can get to know you a little bit better?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did. I sat with him and talked to him, and I found out that he was a restaurant owner and an attorney and a business owner.
Okay.
And, did a lot of different things. And he wanted to ask me out to dinner. Asked me out to lunch at his restaurant.
Mm. What was his name?
To go to dinner. I'm at dinner, lunch with him. And I said, well, I'm a personal shopper. I work at Saks, downtown.
Mm-hmm.
He says, well, that's great because my restaurant is on St. Charles Avenue.
Wow.
He says, I will come and pick you up and bring you to the restaurant, have lunch, and bring you back to work.
Wow.
He says, how long is your lunch? I said, well, it's an hour. And he says, oh, we can make it happen. And can I tell you, I agreed to it.
Mm-hmm.
I told Jennifer, my friend, I'm going on a date. Jennifer, I met a guy. I'm going on a date. I'm excited about it. Well, guess what? He comes to Saks to pick me up.
Uh-huh.
And he has a Porsche.
Oh.
Red Porsche. So he comes to Saks outside, parks the car right in front of the Saks Fifth Avenue.
Uh-huh.
He comes up to the second floor, escorts me down, opens the door. Out the door we go. He puts me in the car. Gentleman.
Exactly.
Goes around and drives me to the restaurant. And when I tell you, he laid out the
royal treatment. Yeah.
Like the carpet.
Uh-huh.
A red carpet.
Yeah.
We had people serving us, like 6 people, bringing appetizers and entrees. He had me taste all kinds of things on the menu.
Wow.
I had food all laid out. Table was set. It was a
So you had a private buffet.
Yes. At the table, I'm like, what are the odds of this happening? Here I meet a guy. He owns a restaurant, and then he takes me on a date to his restaurant
Exactly.
for lunch. Our first date.
Mm.
And rolls the red carpet, and like everybody, oh yes ma'am, would you like some more water? Would you like something else to drink? Would you like, let me take this plate from you. Let me wait on us hand and foot.
Yeah.
And brought me back to work within the hour.
Wow.
So talk about service, right?
Exactly.
And impressive. He had my attention, and he made it happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you sure we can get through this lunch in an hour? Maybe we should wait and do dinner. And he's like, oh no, we're gonna do lunch.
Wow.
I would like you, to join me for lunch.
Yeah.
And so we did, and it was when people would take those long lunches.
Uh-huh.
Businessmen,
Yes.
professionals, doctors, lawyers, and stuff that would be in his restaurant. It was in the One Shell Square, which is a big office
yes, I know.
Okay.
But he's an attorney. This is money.
He's an attorney. Yes. Very well to do. Yes.
Wow.
And all the brothers are attorneys, yes.
Oh, wow. So he was a part of a firm. The brothers owned the firm.
Well, he was independent. Now he did different type of law, but the other brothers are involved, and they have other firms that they are part owners of.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
wow.
but he was, very interesting, very exciting. He was older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And, but what I love about it is that I was able to get over my broken heart.
Yes.
And have fun.
Yeah.
Something light, something joyful.
Yeah.
To look forward to.
Exactly.
And that's what he did for me. And we had fun together.
And age is just a number.
Yeah.
Did he seem older? Did he look older?
No, he was young at heart.
Exactly.
He looked older, because he was thin. His hair was thinning and out and stuff.
Yeah.
But he had sex appeal, chemistry.
Yeah.
He was charming.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great qualities.
Yeah.
As I, started to get to know him, I really was falling for him.
Yeah.
But then there was an issue with children. He was up in age, so he didn't want the family thing all over again.
Ooh.
And honestly, he was raising his children when he was practicing law. He really wasn't the father, hands-on father, when they were grown. His own children were grown up. He explained to me later.
Yeah.
And so, so he, made it exciting and made me happy and something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
After all the stuff I had been through with my husband.
You deserve something good.
Yes, things were looking good.
Yeah.
Finally, a happy life, just to enjoy life again.
Yeah.
And so, then I was like, okay, getting, caught up in motorcycles and trips and stuff that I, was just excited that I was living my life again, enjoying life again. And, of course, my ex-husband, Robert, was not happy with that.
No.
He tried to make it very difficult. He didn't want to pay child support. He didn't want me to be with another man, so all of that was going on in his heart. He was having a hard time dealing with everything. And at first I talked to him about meeting him, and he seemed to be okay, but when I started to fall for the guy,
there was another issue.
Then that became a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then I was riding motorcycles and excited, and he knew that his ex-wife had a motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm. And
that we have these 2 children.
Yeah.
And please don't go and get killed on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Use your head, kind of thing. You know what happened to Tara, his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's her, that's not me. But I was, riding and feeling free and enjoying life.
Yeah.
And living it up, really. So, but one of the things I started to be drawn back to God. I was living in sin.
Yeah.
I fell. And, that loneliness and that excitement and being attracted to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then having somebody who didn't have financial issues.
Yeah.
Could afford everything.
It was freeing.
Yes. And I wanted that, and I wanted to live my life and enjoy, the things that he was showing me and introducing me to.
Yeah.
That quality of life, and he introduced me to people that were influential people that I knew, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I knew of, but I didn't know them.
Yeah.
And I was getting to know them. And anyways, but one of the things that I, had to deal with in my heart was I was getting further away from God.
Yeah.
And so God was drawing me back to him. And so I had conversations with Hank that I wanted to go to church and worship and praise the Lord and put music on like I would do at home. I wanted to do at his house too.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to come to church. He wouldn't go to church.
Yeah. Was he a believer?
He was brought up Catholic.
Okay.
Didn't want anything to do with religion.
Oh. Okay.
So one of those type of people that have been hurt from the church, the Catholic Church. And so he says, but I'm okay with it if that's what you want.
Yeah.
I don't want it for me. And so that began to work on me, and I began to be convicted. And so the joy and the fun and the excitement that I was having, I was not having as much of a good time.
Yep.
because I was torn about going back to church and getting right with God.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a part of that plan because he was refusing to go to church with me. And the man that I'm going to choose to remarry, be with, is going to have that part of his life, a part of it. Let that be a part of his life because it's a big part of my life.
Exactly.
Even though I walk, on the wild side a little bit with him, I wanted him to know that that's important to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to understand that I'm a mother, and I have to set the example for my children.
Exactly.
I can't be in the door and partying and going and living the wild life in one side, of me, or one step in that direction, and the other side in the direction that I'm taking my children is to church, Bible studies, youth groups, children's church, and God in the home, praying over our meals and doing all that. I said, that is my life. And that's the way I was before I met you, and that's the way I live my life. Even though I stepped out and was on the wild side a little bit.
Yeah, but we all had it. You have to forgive yourself. Everybody, that's part of being human.
Yeah, and it's different seasons in our life.
Yeah.
And what I was realizing, we had a couple of near accidents on the motorcycles. And I was praying, God, get me home safe. Lord, don't let this happen.
Yeah.
We don't want to have an accident
here.
But he was testing faith. He was testing that, pushing the bar a little bit.
Exactly.
With the motorcycle. And me on the back of the bike. And I got nervous about it, and then I started feeling the fear come over me.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on a second, I'm a mother. I have children to raise. I got to be around here.
It slapped you back into reality.
Yes. And so I started having, choices to make. So then I started thinking, okay, this man, we're in two different,
two different worlds
in our lives right now. This season of my life, I am still in the raising children faith. And you've already raised your children and they're grown. So this is like not the right time for us to be together. So we started having conversations about that. So my focus is like, I need to be able to take care of me and my family. And Lord, I need to provide for them. So that I'm not dependent on a man, and you're my source. And I'm not dependent on this job. Because if anything happens with me in this job, who's going to take care of us?
Exactly.
And so I started thinking about it, praying. God, I want to be with my children. I don't want to leave them at church on Sunday to go to retail to work. I want to be home with them on the weekends. I want to be at their games, their basketball games and baseball games and football games, and their future, whatever it is, Lord. My daughter's singing on the worship team. I want to be there. I want to see them growing up. And I just prayed, Lord, I want to be a mom. I want to be able to take care of my children. I want to be able to provide for my family. What do I do, Lord? How do I do this? And I want to do it in honoring you. Because I could have a man take care of me. I mean, he offered to take care of me and my children. But I'm living in sin. So I have to make a decision. Am I going to live for God?
Or him, or man.
Live in the world? Or am I going to live in the world and live in sin? And I chose God.
You chose right.
Yes. And so I broke it off with him. And there's a lot in the book about our relationship, and there's a lot more to it. But I respected him, and I honored, my family in telling him that we are like two ships sailing,
past each other.
Passing by. And
two different seasons of your lives.
Yes. And you need to find a woman your own age in the season in your life to share your life with. I am not that woman for you. And I need to have a partner in my life that is willing to go, walk with me through the season of parenting, and growing as a family. And you're not that for me. So we can love each other and respect one another where we are in life, and we're
Mm-hmm.
mature enough to handle this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And he says, but I'm saying you could have it all and have me on the side. And I said, that's not going to work for me.
No, ain't no side with God.
Right. That's not going to work for me. But I will take care of you. I know what you need, and I will be there for you. That's not your job. You know, I don't need a husband to just a person in my life to take care of me.
Yeah.
I said, God takes care of me.
Yeah.
He's taken care of me all my life.
God is your provider.
He is.
Not the job.
So, yes. And when we were dating, another thing, he had a gold mine.
Huh?
Yep. He had a gold mine.
Where?
In Arizona.
Wow.
While we were dating. And he was putting a lot of money into it, but it wasn't producing enough gold, and he wasn't making enough profit and money. He was just pouring money into it. And finally, after about a year or two of dealing with the gold mine,
mm-hmm.
he gave it up. He just let it go and didn't do the mining anymore, and ended up quitting, trying to I guess what they do, they dig and try to produce the gold.
Yeah.
But during the time we were dating, he had a gold mine. That was pretty exciting.
Exactly. I'm you my first guest that
I don't know anybody else who had a gold mine before.
That's something that's you could start a lot of conversations with that.
Oh yeah.
I once dated this guy who had his own gold mine. Yes. And people would be tuned in like, huh? Did you say you just you dated somebody who had their own gold mine?
Absolutely. It was amazing to me. He was very and this man has hit rock bottom, and he always came out of it smelling like a rose.
Wow.
A businessman. And so I admired him. He was very intellectual. So the conversations with him were deep. They were definitely, I learned a lot from him. And he showed me a lot. He taught me a lot about cooking, because he was like he had culinary skills. He cooked. And
so he was actually a chef before.
A chef. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, absolutely.
Multi-talented.
Yeah. Yes, he was. He wore a lot of hats. Catering business, he did that as well.
Wow.
So, very interesting person in my life. And I was grateful to have known him and, dated him. But I had to get right with God. And so I just started to focus on the women that I was working with and how can I help them? How could I be of service to the thousands of women that I work with and serve daily? Mm-hmm. That was my job. And I heard their complaints, and I heard them, going to have these procedures done, liposuction and breast augmentation, and all of the implants and all these things to make them beautiful on the outside, and working on their appearances, looking younger and feeling more confident about themselves. And so there was a lot of things that we had in the store, a lot of beautiful clothing. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have
the undergarments,
the undergarments to bring it together, like we dressed them from head to toe with the shoes, the accessories, the clothing, whether it be formal, whether it be sportswear, whether it be an interview, whatever the need was, we met it.
Wow.
And they were dressed to the tens.
Yeah.
And they had the money. So money wasn't an object. Money wasn't a problem with our clients at Saks Fifth Avenue. They were wealthy women. Some of these women, they were going to luncheons and they didn't work. Their husbands were either lawyers or doctors. They had businesses. They were business women. Mm-hmm. They needed outfits for conventions or whatever, the event was going on in their lives. It could be linens and lace event, all the festivals that we have here. They wanted casual outfits for that, or weddings. So we were busy. And my job was to pull things and give them what they needed. You listen, to what their demands are, what they're looking for, and then help them select items to help them figure out what they're going to buy for that event. Or it could be just a wardrobe for the for the season.
Yeah.
Whether it be for the holiday season, or whether it be, I need some summer things. My summer clothing, I need to vamp my wardrobe.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. Or winter, I need some sweaters. Whatever the occasion is, whatever the season is.
Yeah. That
was our job, to ask the right questions, to get them into the fitting rooms, and then cater to them. And you go and find whatever it is that you're looking for.
Did you guys serve them champagne and stuff too?
We did. They actually had events where we served champagne.
Oh, no, but I'm just talking about like on the regular.
No, not regularly. At the boutique I did, we had people that would come in and shop. I had a lady from Boise, Idaho. And they had a private jet, and they flew in to the shop on Royal Street.
Wow.
And you know what? Nobody greeted this woman. She was jogging, and she had her shorts on. She was sweaty, a T-shirt on, and she had no makeup on, hair in a ponytail. And she came in, looked around at the shop, and I greeted her. This is at Florida Parade now. And I said, look, if you want to try anything on, that's fine. I just wanted to let you know, I'm Delores, and I'm here to help you. And she's like, oh, no. I love this outfit, and I love that. And she's pulling, like, these outfits and saying, I want to try this, I want to try that. But then, and everybody's looking at me, oh, no, she's sweaty. Oh, no, you can't have her try on these clothes. So she tells me, I'll be back. I'm going to my hotel. I'm going to my hotel room. I'm going to take a shower. And after lunch, I will be here. I will be back to try these things on. Had a dressing room full of clothes. And what does the manager say? Delores, that woman's not coming back. She's just pulling your leg. She's not coming back. She can put those things out. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to wait till after lunch. Because I believe she is coming back.
Exactly.
She was jogging. She was sweaty. And she wasn't, going to try on our clothes. And she said she was coming. So I am going to take her word for it.
Yep.
And I'm going to wait till she comes back. And they were laughing. Like, right. So she's not coming back.
And she came back.
What? This woman walked in. They didn't recognize her. She was beautiful.
Oh,
she walked through the door. It was like Vogue magazine. She walked off the runway. Beautiful. And she had her husband with her.
Wow. And
they were here visiting some business thing that he had to attend to, here for his business. And she was out shopping. And she brought him back to see the outfits that she wanted to try on.
Wow.
Wanted his opinion. And guess what? She bought like $6,000 and invited me to the gumbo shop to eat dinner with them.
Oh my God.
Not that day, but the next day. We want to take you out to dinner. I spent 3 hours with them.
Oh my goodness.
And they bought hats and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just saying to you,
Cha-ching.
You don't prejudge the customer.
Yep.
I don't care what they look like.
Yep. Because you never know. Millionaires now walk around in jeans and T-shirts and tennis shoes.
Exactly.
So you can't judge.
So she wasn't dressed. She didn't have. She came back. She had all her diamonds on.
Yep.
Her jewelry was beautiful.
Yep.
She was very wealthy, extremely wealthy.
Yep.
So I made their day, and the fact that they learned a lesson. You never prejudge. Even though they did it, still they continued to do that. But nonetheless, it was my opportunity here to show that you don't judge a book by its cover.
Yep.
And so she was a regular customer. She would come in twice a year when I worked there. So for me, at Saks, same thing.
Yeah.
You help everyone. Everybody's the same.
Yeah.
And you don't treat people differently.
Yeah.
Whether they have money or they don't have money.
Exactly.
Everybody's the same.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of customers that turned into clients. The job at Saks was to develop a clientele so that you have repeated business. You can't totally depend on the convention.
Yeah.
All the conventions that we host in the convention center. because that's tourists, people that are not, they don't live here. They may come in one time, shop, and you'll never see them again.
And Saks is usually a sponsor, because I think my daughter on, what was that, Wednesday, they performed at the luncheon for Nova. They're sponsors, and I think I saw Saks on there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did a lot of fashion shows at the hotels and stuff.
And they had a fashion show. My daughter, they danced, and then they had because they danced on the runway, and they had a fashion show they ran after the girls danced. Yeah.
And they do Fashion Week. So there's a lot of events that go on.
Wow.
And you take advantage of those opportunities because people are out shopping and they want the new, the latest, greatest things that are coming into the season, you know? And so that's why we do it, to promote business and have the customers come into the store, try these outfits on. That's our job, to sell them. And so, but my whole thing was that I was getting frustrated with the customers because a lot of times it was outfits that were beautiful and they looked great, but the customer wasn't happy with themselves, the way they looked. They weren't confident in what they were wearing. And they had rolls and they had, you know, hot bellies and, you know, things that I couldn't help them with. You know, I said, look, you know, you're going to have to go up to the lingerie department, or let's go up there. Let's go see what kind of bra, you know, from padded bras to like a minimizer. When you have a heavy chest, when you're busty, then you can't wear the padded bras because it makes you look even
bustier.
Bigger. Yes. So you wear a minimizer. Which has no padding. It may have an underwire, but it has no padding. And then you can button up the blouse or zip up the dress. You know, so those are the kind of things that you have to work with the customers. When you get them in the fitting room, you know what they need. And so that was my job, to have an eye for detail. So that was important to me. And I saw the faces, the disappointment on the women's faces when they loved the dress. So they loved this outfit, but they didn't have the shape to wear them. Well, you know, Delores, one of my customers, Patty, who had $10,000 worth of liposuction that she confided in me about.
Wow.
Only that it was worse after the procedure was done, because it was like it left craters in her pockets in her skin that she could not fix. They went back, tried to fix it, and it just kept getting worse and worse.
Oh, wow.
And so I saw the tears on her face as she explained to me, this is the second procedure. And what I saw, it looked like, I hate to say it, but it looked like cottage cheese on her body. And so she was in a full girdle, a body girdle.
Wow.
Because she had to wear that so that those pockets would try to fill in wherever the fat they took out, the other fat would just expand. And try to fill in those gaps. And oh my gosh, I would just leave there saying, oh, help me, Lord, to come up with an idea, a solution to the problems here. This is not good. This is awful. And to see that they were desperate. They were that desperate that they would do these procedures. Some of them were risky procedures.
Wow.
You know, when they do those tucks and all that stuff to lose weight.
Yeah, liposuction is expensive and risky.
Yes. And that other kind of procedure where they take away part of your stomach, the fat. And
what is that called?
You're supposed to change your eating habits, you know, and you can't eat as much. You know, the portions have to be smaller and all these things. And then you start seeing people get sick because they took too much fat out and left them, you know, ill. That they're not normal. Like things are happening that they can't fix. They messed up. You know, so you see all these procedures and hear all these horror stories. And it just, it was heavy on my heart. Like, how do I fix this? How do I help these women? Because it was my job to help them to fix the problems, the issues that they were having, the flaws that they were trying to correct. How can I do this in a less evasive way, where they don't have to have these procedures? And so I started wearing a product that this is something that I created, which I had women tell me, I want to look like you, okay, in the store. If I had your figure, I would wear this, but I can't wear this the way I look. And they didn't know this, but I was wearing a garment underneath my clothes.
Wow. And
so what I did is, you know, when we worked at Saks, we had a fashion police that we had to be dressed in a code.
Yeah.
Women had to wear pantyhose.
Yep.
Whether you wear a dress or slack, your attire, you had to wear pantyhose with everything. No open-toe shoes in the beginning when I worked there. Later, over the years, when the bank started having a casual day on Fridays, they were getting more relaxed, more casual. Saks came and changed their policies where we were allowed to wear open-toe shoes.
Wow.
We were allowed to wear no pantyhose. You know, it was our choice. We wore tights or we wore pantyhose. But when they started to get more relaxed, and I started to wear things underneath my garment. I mean, undergarments underneath my clothes.
Yes.
There, I designed and came up with an idea of cutting the foot out of the pantyhose because pantyhose were going out of style. And it was around, you know, right below the calf area, and wearing them underneath my pants. And a lot of the designer clothes had liners. The slacks and the pants were lined. Yeah. Well, then we went to, because of it being so expensive, they started designing clothes without the liner. And in New Orleans, you know, you have the heat you're dealing with as well.
And humidity.
And humidity.
Yeah.
So you want comfort.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, they didn't want to wear a girdle. They wanted comfort, and they didn't want to sweat with all the undergarments and all the clothes and layers of clothes that they had to wear. Yeah. And so how do you come up with something that's casual? I mean, that's comfortable, excuse me. Whether you're wearing casual or whether you're wearing dressy, you know, whether you are wearing something fitted or formal, you want to look flawless. We were having a problem selling the clothes because we didn't have the right undergarments. It was a problem.
Wow.
And we were ladies that walked away with a $6,000 dress, evening gown, because she had the rolls coming over her panty lines or bulges coming out and not liking the way she looked. And I get it. And the next size up, she wouldn't go from an 8 to a 10 because it's a 2-digit.
Yep.
I want to be an 8.
I thought I was the only.
I can't wear the 8. I'm not buying a 10. This is how serious.
I thought I was the only one there because I was like, for years, 8 was my number. Now I'm in a 12.
Okay. So you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
These women feel that way. If you want to be an 8 and then you allow yourself to buy a 10, and then that 10 becomes a 12.
Oh, yeah. Because believe me, I'm living that now.
And that is how I had to deal with women like that. They would not buy the outfit because of the size. And you know what? Designers got clever, and they started sizing up. In other words, the 8 was really a 10. Now they got smart.
Yep.
And some of those.
And the 10 was really a 12.
Yes, because let me ask you something. I was 5'8", right? I'm 5'8" in height. I'm 125, 130 pounds. I was wearing a 2 and a 4.
Yep.
There is no way, okay?
Yep.
5'8", you can fit in a 2 or
And you know what? I thought the manufacturers had changed the sizes because I'm like, I'm wearing. I have some clothes.
It's a lie.
Yes.
You know, they were deceiving people, but it was generous. Now, some of them are more accurate than others, okay?
Yeah.
I will say there are some designers that are more generous, okay, than others.
Yeah.
And then some are skimpier than others.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to know the brand. You got to know the designer.
Yeah, because it's all about the brand.
You can't play that game with everybody. Not everybody's the same.
It's not across the board, no.
Exactly. And every woman's figure is different.
Yeah.
They're unique.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to cater to each person individually, their shape, their size.
Yeah.
All of that. So you got to find, and you have to have the eye as the stylist. You have to figure out what's going to look the best on them.
Yeah.
Because if you bring the wrong things, you're going to turn them off, and they're not going to buy anything. And you're going to upset them.
Yeah.
I'm not buying anything. I don't like anything. I don't like the way anything looks.
Yeah.
And I had that happen to me many, many, many times. Because it wasn't the clothes. It was the figure.
Yeah.
Her body was not firm. Her body was not shaped.
Mm-hmm.
She gained weight. She's not happy with her weight. All of that.
Yeah.
And
I can relate.
Sometimes we can't help them.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
You have to work with what they bring you.
Exactly. And I'm not a miracle worker.
No, you're not.
So anyway, I started thinking about what I'm doing and what I'm wearing. And whether or not this is something that would be an item that I could sell in the store. If I'm wearing it and they're complimenting me, telling me, if I look like you, I'd buy that. I'd wear that.
Yeah.
But I don't have that shape. I don't have your body. I don't have your height.
Yeah.
So they were focusing on what they don't have.
Yep.
And I wanted them to focus on their beauty, who they are.
Their unique beauty.
They're unique and they're them. God created you, you know, the way you are.
Yep.
You are, the scripture says you are
wonderfully and beautifully made.
Wonderfully, that's it.
Yep.
So you are, is it wonderfully?
Wonderfully made.
Yeah, but there's, that's not the whole scripture, but yes. You are, there is a scripture, I can't think of it at the moment. I will think of it before it's over with. But that is wonderfully. Anyways, God created you. He didn't make any mistakes.
Nope.
We are all different sizes. It would be boring if we all looked the same.
Exactly.
If we were all shaped the same. I said, so it's my job to find what fits you and what looks great on you.
Yep.
And if I can't do that, then I'm not doing my job.
Exactly.
So that's how a lot of my customers became my clients because they trusted me. They liked my style. They liked the things that I pulled for them, things that they would have never pulled.
Yeah.
I pulled them, and I brought them to the dressing room, and they tried them on, something they wouldn't have done, wouldn't have tried on, or wouldn't have pulled for themselves.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I began to realize that what I'm doing, I need to offer it to women. What I'm doing for myself, I need to offer it to the women.
Yes. Because
it is a solution to the problem. Now, how do I go about this, Lord? You gave me this vision. You gave me this dream of something that would help the women that I serve. So how do I develop it? How do I get this into their hands?
Yeah.
So I started researching and going to the library. Now, we were not selling pantyhose. So pantyhose was hurting. Their business was getting ready. The pantyhose was getting ready to go out of business because they weren't selling. And in our department, down in Sac, we were not selling pantyhose. So pantyhose sales were down.
I don't think anywhere sells pantyhose anymore. I remember that used to be a thing. Everybody, you had to go to the yes, you had to go to the store, and they had rows and rows of pantyhose, different brands and different sizes. But now, I mean, like, I can't think of a store that sells hose anymore. They sell socks, and they sell the what do you call them? The trouser socks, but not pantyhose.
Right. There's a few. Delores sells them. You know, some of the department stores sell them. TJ Maxx has a few. They may have like 2 brands.
Yeah.
and very low inventory.
But like I said, that used to be a full aisle.
Yes.
On both sides. Yes.
When I first started working, that was our dress code. We had to wear pantyhose.
Yeah.
So, but when it was laxed and we didn't have to anymore, I wore them underneath my clothes.
Yeah.
But I cut the feet out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what I was sharing, that's how I get this flawless look.
Mm-hmm.
Certain customers that I had a relationship with.
Yeah.
And my family, my friends knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was something that I was working on, going to the library, looking at manufacturing, whether or not they even made this product, whether or not they even had this product. And I researched it, and would go to the library and rent the books, go home, pick up my children after work, come home, make dinner, do homework, bath time, putting them to bed, and then sitting at the table with the books laid out, researching. You're a researcher, so you know what I'm talking about. Yep. This was before computers. I didn't even own a computer.
Wow.
So I went page by page through the manufacturers, North Carolina, to see what was out there.
Wow.
So that was something that I was working on, drawing the sketch of what my design was like and what it was going to be and how to do this. And so anyways, that was something that I was working on. And I kept having incidences at home where I got up in the middle of the night, I went to the bathroom, and I collapsed.
Wow.
I woke up in a puddle of urine and a busted head. And my children, Mommy, wake up, Mommy, on a cold floor.
Wow.
And I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got there. I don't know what happened. My daughter's picking me up off the floor.
How old is she now?
So,
when this is going on?
She was 11, maybe 10 or 11. She was young.
Okay.
11, 12, something like that. So she's 7 years older than my son. Mm-hmm. So he's the baby.
Yeah.
And he's seeing my mommy's on the ground. She's got a busted head. I had a cut on my head. I was bleeding. But I hit the floor. I didn't even make it to the bathroom, to the toilet.
Wow.
So that was one incident. And then it happened again. I was sitting on the toilet, and I just fell off the toilet, fell over, and busted my head again. I don't know. I didn't know that. I thought I woke up and I was walking in my sleep and I collapsed. I was sleeping. That's the only thing I could think of. It's the only thing that made sense to me is I'm half asleep. So until one day at work at Saks, we have an event that was going on in the store and we were promoting one of the designers' collection. Mm-hmm. And it was a big pre-sale. And so we had a lot of guests and a lot of people in the store. And I went into the stock room. I sold a wedding, a bridal gown for a mother of bride, and it was a long gown. And I went up and reached up to one of the racks in the stock room. And as I did, I blacked out, and I felt the tightening in my chest, and I could not breathe.
Wow.
And so I got terrified because I could not breathe. And I ran out of there because I was in the stock room by myself. I ran out onto the floor, and my manager at the time was at the cash register checking out someone and some of the ladies there in our department. And she saw me run out. And she said she saw my face, and it was like white. Mm-hmm. Like I was pale. And our eyes were real open, big. And I was running out to a fitting room to lay in the fitting room and rest. Like, what is happening? I didn't know what was going on with me, but I knew that I was having an attack. Wow. I didn't know if it was a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on, but I could feel something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I went to a fitting room that had a bench, and I laid there. and the tears were coming down my face as I could not breathe. And I'm like holding my chest and I'm rocking myself. Like, I got to calm down, Lord. And I'm, like praying, help me, Lord, help me. I can't breathe. Help me. I'm panicking. And so my supervisor, Denise, comes in there. And she's like, Delores, look at me. What's going on? I couldn't speak to tell her what's going on because I didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
So I was trying to calm myself down. Do I need to call an ambulance? She's asking me. Do you need an ambulance? Are you okay? Can you talk? And I'm like, yeah, shaking my head. No, I cannot talk. I can't talk right now. I can't talk. And tears are coming down my face because I can't speak.
So you literally couldn't speak.
I literally took my breath away. I could not speak.
Wow.
And I could not breathe. Until it eventually, I calmed. I could feel my spirit. I had to stop panicking and get control of myself and stop panicking. Like, that was the worst thing to do because it made it worse. My chest tightened to where it was contracting, like a heaviness. And so as I relaxed my body, instead of tightening up, I relaxed my body. My airways began to open, and it began to, I could see my breath, like I could breathe a little bit in and a little bit out. But it was a gradual thing. It didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, just a little bit at a time. And she kept asking me questions, and I shook my head and I shook my hand, like, stop. I can't speak to you right now. Just stop. Leave me alone. I'm going to be okay. All I kept saying was, okay. Okay. All I could get out was, okay. Okay, barely. Until I could start breathing again and calm myself down to where I could say a sentence. But it took a little while, and it scared her. And she's like, what's going on? And I said, Denise, I don't know. I just don't know. And I said, this has been going on a couple of times. It's happened here, but it's happened at home as well. She says, what? I said, yes. I said, but this is the worst because I was aware that it was happening to me and I didn't know what was happening. So she says, I'm calling an ambulance. You're going to the hospital. And I said, no. And she's like, what do you mean no? You got to go to the hospital. And I said, look, I've handled this. I've been handling this a while. It's not the first time. It gets better and it goes away. And she says, no, this is not happening. Not here, not on my watch.
Wow.
So I need to call an ambulance. Like, you need to go. You're a liability. This is not normal. And so I said, I can't do that. I can't go to the hospital right now. I can't. I've got to take care of my family. And she said, I'm trying to explain to her, I need my job. This is important to me. Don't do this, because it would take me out of work. And who's going to take care of us, And I'm thinking, and I'm like, God, please don't do this. Don't panic. Don't let her panic, please. And call an ambulance. Because the embarrassment of having an ambulance come and the stretcher out and carried away. And
everybody like, what happened?
Yeah, what happened to Delores? She had a heart attack?
Yeah.
What happened? So she says, I'll tell you what. I'm going to make a deal with you. She says, I'm going to call Robert. I'm going to call your ex-husband. And I'm going to tell him what happened to you today and have him take you to the hospital. But you have to leave. You got to leave now. I'm going to have him come and pick you up, and I'm going to have him promise me that he's going to take you to the hospital to get checked out. Will you agree to that? And I agreed. And my ex-husband came up there, and he came and got me and brought me to the hospital, to the ER. And I got checked out that day. And so I wanted you to know that because it's so important. In my book, I explained to them, or explained to the reader, that this was going on. This was progressively getting worse.
Wow.
This condition. But I didn't know. I was 37, a single mom, working full time. And I felt like this may have been the stress of working on my idea at night, not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
I would fall asleep at the dinner table working on my idea.
Yeah.
And my daughter and my son were worried about me because they found me on the floor. I didn't tell anybody, but they knew something's wrong with mommy. She fell on the floor and she was laying there in the bathroom in a puddle of pee-pee, urine.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. And I don't even think that they knew how bad it was. Like, they just, couldn't understand what was going on, but they didn't put two and two together that was a red flag, that something's going on with mommy. She's sick. So
who got them from school? Did you have any friends?
That day, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, they, Papa's and Mama picked them up from school because their dad told them that my boss, my supervisor called him, that something happened to me at work, that I'm okay, but I have to go to the emergency room to be checked out. Could they please go and take care of the children? That's another thing you mentioned about going to get the children. And part of the problem was I would leave work after work all day, and I would drive across town to go pick up my children, but I couldn't make it. I was falling asleep behind the wheel. So I would have to pull over on my way to pick them up and take a power nap. I knew something wasn't quite right.
Girl, God he had his hands on you.
Yes, and I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't want to believe it. Like, I was in denial that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
So I continued until this happened to me at work, where I couldn't excuse it anymore. I couldn't delay the inevitable. Like, I need to go to the doctor and have them look at me and find out why this is happening. So, but I was just thinking that I'm exhausted from all the work I'm doing, taking care of the children, working on my idea. All of these things added up to I need some rest. I'm just exhausted.
Yeah.
But it was more than that. And when you can't get dressed, like you're dragging in the morning, I'd have to have a pot of coffee. Not 1 or 2 cups of coffee. I drink 1 or 2 every day now.
Yeah.
But it was a pot of coffee to get moving. That I needed that much caffeine in me to get moving. So that was a problem. That was a red flag. So these kind of things were adding up, but yet I was ignoring them. I was pushing myself.
Yeah.
And there were days at work that I didn't have anything to eat, that I drank the coffee all morning. And the first meal of the day would be around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon lunch.
That's not good.
No. So I was neglecting my body.
Yeah.
Because I would get to work and be so busy that I didn't have time to eat. And didn't bring anything from home. Sometimes I would forget.
Yeah.
And my first meal of the day would be 2 o'clock. So those were things that I was neglectful to myself.
Yeah.
Because I was taking on so much. God didn't design us to be parents, be single parents.
No.
It takes 2
to
raise a family.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do it in my own strength. Well, I was humbled. I began to be humbled, where it wasn't in DeDe's strength. I couldn't do all these things anymore. All the things I was pushing and striving in my own strength, God was showing me that it's Him that I have to surrender to. It's Him who is my source. He's my provider.
Yeah.
He's my husband. He's my healer. He's my all. That I can't do it in my own strength anymore. And so, and I was praying, no doubt about it, I was praying that this would go away.
Yeah.
That all this being tired and passing out and all that was just a part of the season I'm in. And I'm going to get better. I'm going to get stronger.
Yeah.
So.
Well, not when you're not taking care of yourself.
That's right. And I began to realize that if I am not healthy, how am I going to provide and take care of my family anyway?
Exactly.
If I'm not here to take care of them.
Exactly. If you're not well enough to work.
Right. And it started to make sense to me that this has been adding up. Like, it's been something that's been building up and building up to where I can't ignore it anymore. And so when I went to the hospital with my ex-husband, and I was told after all the tests that they took, and they checked me, for a heart attack, like the EKGs and blood work and x-rays and just trying to figure out what's happening. because they think it's a stroke or a heart attack.
Yeah.
When you talk about your chest, pain in your chest, and you lift your arm and all this kind of stuff, that's what they go through a process of elimination.
Yeah.
And that's what they had to do in order to diagnose something is wrong.
Yeah.
And figure out what it is. Well, they sent me from there to this the doctor for a hematologist, because he was telling us, explaining, the ER doctor was explaining to my ex-husband and I that I had low platelets, low red cells, and low white cells. And I said, what? Yeah, this is something that is a little bit more complicated. It's not like you can just take a pill or take a shot and you're okay. This is going to take some more looking into.
Wow. And
I'm like, what? So he was explaining to my ex-husband, I'm going to give her something, temporarily to help her ease the pain in her chest and give her some strength, which was prednisone, a steroid. And I was like, hold on. No. I don't do good with drugs. I don't take drugs. I don't even like the thought of taking steroids. Isn't that what this bodybuilder people take, steroids and stuff?
Yep.
No. I don't want that. He's like, ma'am, he says, no, this is not for bodybuilders. This is a steroid that will support your body and give you energy.
Yep.
Because you are very, very weak right now.
Yep.
Your blood counts are very low.
Yep.
So no wonder you've been passing out.
Yep.
Your body is depleted.
Yeah.
And you need more iron. You need a lot more things than I'm capable to treat you here today. This is going to be a process, and it's not something that you can just do overnight. And you're going to have to participate in your healing process. And I'm like, telling him, now is not the time for me to be sick. You don't understand. He says, ma'am, you need to understand that this is your life we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, I've never had someone point blank come out and tell me that this is life and death for you. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He says, you cannot ignore this, that this is vital. This is something that you need to survive. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to be very direct with you.
He's not trying to scare you by telling you it's life or death.
Yeah, he says, well, you can't live without blood. He says, your body is under attack right now.
Wow.
And it's in the blood. I said, are you saying, what I think you're saying to me? Do I have leukemia? And he's like, ma'am, I didn't say that. I am just letting you know that your blood counts are extremely low. And the reason for the passing out is because your body is under attack.
Yeah.
And it's affecting your blood. And you don't have enough reproduction. It's getting lower. It's not increasing. So something's happened in the blood. So you've got to go see the specialist. So I'm going to write you a prescription, give you a shot of steroids to help you feel better, but it's temporary.
Wow.
And that began the investigation of finding out and going through a process of elimination on test that took 9 months of testing. Upper colonoscopy, upper GI, EKG, bone marrow biopsy, blood test, tubes and tubes every other day to figure out, going to the doctor, specialist, going to the lab. This was a daily, weekly thing for me.
Wow. From
here on out for 9 months. Once I went to that doctor's appointment, he referred me to the hematologist oncologist. And that is a doctor for the blood. So I began all these tests, and it was exhausting because they could not find out what was wrong with me. And so they began the process of elimination. They tested me for AIDS. for lupus, for hepatitis, fibromyalgia, all of these diseases. And what they were saying is it looks to be the possibility of a autoimmune problem. Well, I didn't like to hear those words.
No.
What is autoimmune problem? It's something to do with your immune system. And your immune system right now is very weak. So, that was a shocker. Because I'm just thinking, it could be, a little something here or there, but it's nothing major.
No.
Only to find out this is something very major.
Very major.
So, I'm going to live with this condition until they find out what is wrong. Because they can't treat it if they don't know what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So it continued. I still worked. I still took care of the children. I still had episodes. I still worked on my project. I did everything the same, but only added to the misery, which was the other tests that I was taking and the blood work that I was going to the hospital, to the lab every other day before going to work. Exhausted. And I was exhausted and I was losing blood, and they were taking more blood from me. And there were times where I'd have to sit in the lab and drink orange juice and apple juice and stuff to get the energy to get up off the chair.
Wow.
Because, they wanted to make sure I was okay before I got behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Because those episodes would come on so quickly.
Yeah.
And I would just faint.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to get this stabilized.
I'm surprised you were still allowed to drive.
Well, because they couldn't diagnose anything, they couldn't restrain me from driving. I just knew that when it was coming on, that I had enough time to pull over.
Okay.
Find a parking lot, find, side of the road or whatever, and get off the road.
Yeah.
Till I took a power nap or rested my eyes at least. And I would doze off. It would be a power nap. And then wake up 15 minutes, sometimes a half an hour later, and get back on the road and go and be okay. Wow. But when it came on all of a sudden, that's why I said those episodes in the bathroom. It just came on all of a sudden, and I hit the ground. I was sitting down, and it fell over. So I was at the table. My daughter said many a time she came in the dining room when I was working on my project, and she got up to go to the bathroom at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was out on the table with the books and all and the paper on the table. She said she saw sketches and everything on the table in front of me.
Had you fallen asleep?
That I fell asleep. And it could have been an episode where I just passed out.
Wow.
She didn't know. I didn't know. But I just hit the table and I was just out. And to her, it looked like I fell asleep at the table.
Yeah.
So that was going on a while. And so, but what ended up happening, because you'll have to get the book to hear all the details and hear what happened and the test that was taken to diagnose my illnesses. And so that slowed down everything. It slowed down my work ethic as far as, trying to get to work and rushing not to be late and having conversations about tardiness, because I had to do everything in my power. It was so strenuous on me to get up and put makeup on and get dressed. Now, remember I told you how at Saks everybody looked like they came out of a Vogue magazine?
Yeah.
You can't show up with your hair messed up and no makeup and raggedy looking clothes.
Wow.
You had to look like a 10.
Yep.
Okay? Every day. And it took effort. It takes effort to do that. And I didn't have the energy to do that. I had to force myself and drink a pot of coffee to get up and get moving. And sometimes I'd have to lay down in between getting the mascara on, putting a blouse on, putting pantyhose on, putting my shoes on. I had to rest in between and get my kids ready and get them fed. And they contributed to helping me because they knew it was a struggle at home. Mm-hmm. They knew I was suffering. Mm-hmm. They knew I was struggling. Randy was a big help to me, my daughter. Yeah. Thank God I had my daughter first. she was a blessing.
Yeah.
To help me and carry some of the load. And that's why I called her my adult child, because she took on responsibilities.
Yeah.
Because she was more mature beyond her years. Because she saw a lot. She saw me suffering. She saw me passing out. She saw things. And she helped pitch in. So anyway, so all of that, I'm saying all of that, and I just want you to know that this was something that was ongoing, and it slowed down everything. The fact that I was sick. And so I'm rushing to hurry up and do everything that the normal daily chores and things that I would do was a challenge for me. It began to be a big challenge for me. And going to the doctor's appointments and finding out, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put you on some steroids. Well, no, I can't do that. I don't know about that. Doesn't it, steroids, it makes your neck swell and makes you, gain all this weight. And I was thinking all these things. I'm vain, right? I'm thinking, oh, no. You're going to change everything about me because I got to take these pills?
Yeah.
And I don't do well taking pills. I'm sorry. I don't know if I want to do that. I'm going to have to pray about this. I'm going to have to pray before I do this. Okay? And I'm thinking all of these thoughts. Ma'am, if this is what's going to help you, to give you energy, it's a temporary, this is not getting to the root of the problem, because we don't know what the problem is yet. We're still trying to figure it out. But in the meantime, I can give you a steroid treatment that will help give you some energy and help you feel better until we get to the root. Will you cooperate? This is about your health here. And I said, well, I am going to pray about it. And if that's the case, if that's the only thing that you're offering me, then I will consider it. And pretty much that was what they were offering me. Now, there were things there were other things that were like IVs of iron. There were things that, in the future, this is what we're going to end up having to do if it doesn't get better. So there were other things, solutions to the problem that would help me to be able to function and do what I have to do, as far as being a single mom and taking care of the children in my life, my daily things, routine things that I needed to do in order to take care of myself and my family. Wow. I needed help. So those were the things. And work. I worked through the whole time.
So you were allowed, they didn't give you any, well, you said you got written up sometimes for not being in the dress code.
Well, no, because of being tardy.
Okay.
Because I tried to pull myself together.
Okay.
And I was struggling.
Okay.
To get there, take the kids to school, or to sitter, and get to work.
Wow.
And I was driving all over the place. I was struggling to get myself dressed. I was putting makeup on in the car on the way to work. I mean, I did what I had to do to survive, but it was by the hardest. And I was praying and I was on the prayer list at my church, asking for prayer.
Yeah.
And God to help me. That I couldn't do it alone. I had to have help, and some of my friends would cook meals so I wouldn't have to go home. My ex-mother-in-law at the time was fixing food and giving us to-go packages for me to have something to eat when I got home. Or invited me in when I pick up the children. She'd pick them up from school, and then I'd pick them up from her house. She would have them already fed, and she would say, look, Delores, come in. I made a pot of beans. Come and eat before you go home. Yeah. And I'd have a little package or a little container for you to take home and go, have that work for lunch or whatever. So you don't have to worry about that. So they were helping because they knew I was sick. So I had help, and they were supporting me that way. And that was a blessing to me. So all of that was going on. And one of the things that I knew that this was serious and that, God was with me and protecting me from other things that were happening, with my illness, and like falling asleep on the sofa when I get home from work. And I lay down and tell my daughter, okay, Brandy, mommy's got to lay down for a few minutes. I'm just going to take a little power nap, and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to start cooking. Yeah. But I got to lay down. So I'd lay down. Well, I would wake up at 10 o'clock, and the kids would be in bed. They'd put themselves to sleep. My daughter would make them cereal for dinner.
Oh, wow.
and go to bed. And I'd be like, wait, what day is this? What happened? Too often it was happening.
Wow.
So things were getting, worse.
Yep.
Things were getting pretty bad. And that was a sign, again, of things that we got to do something. I got to do something about this, because I don't even know that my kids are home. I don't even know what day it is. What did they eat? They went to bed. They had, dinner, because I saw the bowls of cereal, melt in the sink. That's what she thought to do. Or if we had leftovers, she'd just warm up the leftovers.
Yeah.
Thank God I had a good daughter.
Yeah.
Who did those things.
Yeah.
God gave her wisdom beyond her years to help her little brother and to help me.
Yeah.
So all of that, and I just wanted, I just was thankful and thanking God that I had my children to help take care of me.
Yeah.
My mother knew the struggles of my health and things that were going through. I didn't tell her all of it. But she, was not well herself, and she couldn't help me anyway. And so I leaned on my daughter. I leaned on my kids to be there for me, and some of my friends. And so I had to slow down the idea and, put that on the back burner while I was facing this
your health
issue.
crisis.
Yes. And so I continued to work and take care of the kids and go to the doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And so now we're getting back to the extraordinary day. And, I'm giving you all this just to let you know that this was something that was going on. The fashion, the fashion industry was hurting at this point. We had a lot of expensive clothing and a lot of customers that weren't buying as much, and or whatever the reasons were, the styles of the clothes were more form-fitting, and you had to have the figures to sell the clothes, and it was expensive, and people were just not as they weren't shopping as much, weren't spending as much.
Yeah. Well, that had a lot to do with the economy, even if they did have the body. A lot of people were being more conservative with their money.
Exactly. And people were dressing down. They weren't dressing up as much. I remember helping women that used to wear Ellen Tracy's suits to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because they were, society women, and they had an image.
Yep. They had to keep up.
They had to keep up, and they talked amongst each other. They had clubs that they would go, and they would dress to the tens, luncheons, fashion shows. I mean, they were society women that loved social events and social gatherings, And so that was slowing down, not so much. We weren't selling as much, to a lot of the women partying and going to clubs and all that. We weren't selling as much. Styles were changing and those kind of things. People were getting more casual wear, more relaxed clothing. And so that's not as expensive, unless you want high-end designer clothing. That's a different, level.
Yeah.
But so we were just working with what we had, and the sales, were hurting, so we had to figure out things, how to generate more business, So the pressure was on. Sell. How are we going to do this? And my idea was there. It was in the back burner. This is going to be revolutionary. This is going to be an idea that's going to help fashion.
Yeah.
And all along, all of this, I'm thinking, I'm planning. This is the future. This is coming.
Yeah.
I just got to get well enough to deal with it. So that is something that I'm dealing with, also with getting well and making sure that I'm around to further
take advantage of it.
Take advantage of the gift that God has given me.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have a big event coming into our city, and this is one of the largest conferences that we're hosting. So we have something to look forward to. We're planning a lot of events in the store. And it happens to be the fall of 1999, in November of 1999. And it's a big event. And we're going all out at Saks, hosting, knowing that the city's hosting an event, a huge event like this. They've got all kinds of things going on, events in the store.
Yeah.
And so we're all getting excited and knowing that this is going to be a busy, busy week. And the atmosphere, everybody's just excited, and we are getting informed about all the events that's going on in the stores and having meetings, and everybody's got their enthusiasm and excitement going on and talking about everything. So we're excited about that and inviting and welcoming our guests. And so looking forward to it. And so we hosted, it was Shoppa Conference.
It was what?
One of the largest office supply events in our state, in our city.
What was the name again?
Shoppa.
How do you spell it? SHOPPA?
SHOPPA.
Okay.
Shoppa. In 1999, November 1999, they were here. And so we had events going on. Everybody was on, working and letting everybody know your areas and make sure, you got the merchandise out there. We want everything, people on the floor, helping these ladies, getting them in the fitting rooms, all this talk, right, about the excitement of what's going to happen here. And so we're ready, for this event, to host this event. So we're helping the customers coming in and introducing ourselves and welcoming them to New Orleans, welcome to our city, welcome to our store, so we are inviting them to come in and try things on. And so anyway, Jennifer and I, and there's like 6 to 8 women in this department, in the Bridge Sportswear department. And we are all busy helping people that are coming in and trying to get women into the fitting rooms. Because once you get them in the fitting rooms, you're going to sell them something.
Yeah.
Right? It's getting them in that fitting room is the important part. You got to let them know you're here to help them. If they're looking for something special, help them figure out what it is that they're looking for and find it for them. And then get them in the dressing room. And once you're in the dressing room, our customers, we then start talking to them. If it's working or not working, you go back out, pull more stuff, bring it back in there. That's customer service. So we were really big on customer service and helping our customers. So, and whatever the need is. I need some heels. I have the perfect heels for that outfit, dressing them from head to toe. Whatever they needed. That was our job. We are the stylists. We're going to dress you and complete your outfit.
Yeah.
So that was part of being a shopper and stylist, and that was part of our job. So that's what we did. And you can go anywhere in the store, okay, to help that customer.
Okay. And
so we would get people in. One particular day, as I talked to you about in the beginning of the book, That Extraordinary Day. This person, I had a customer that came into the store, and she came into the Bridge Sportswear department. And she was looking around the store, and as we would always say when someone enters into the area, Jennifer acknowledged her and said, "Hello, are you looking for anything special? Either, you greet the person, say hello to them when they first are in the department. You don't want to ignore anybody, but you greet them, and then ask them if there's anything in particular they're looking for. That way you can address whatever that it is that they're looking for with them, and help and assist them." So that's our job. And Jennifer had a customer that walked into the department and said hello and asked her if she needed anything. And if she needed anything, just let us know. And the customer began to walk around and take a look at the store, take a look at the things in our department. And she began to pull some things. And so we continued to straighten some racks. We have people coming and going. So as they empty the dressing rooms, we're hanging up clothes, putting them back out on the racks, so people can come and try things on. So we're always busy, whether we're doing that or just freshening up a display that someone took a jacket off or put on a scarf or whatever, took off a scarf, whatever it is, accessories. We are constantly going back and refurbishing, what is sold, and emptying out dressing rooms. So we're standing there and we're, working in the department, hanging up clothes and straightening racks and stuff like that. And so the customer approaches Jennifer, this lady, and asks, she has a few things in her hands and she wants to go in and try on the clothes. Mm-hmm. And so, but I'm looking for something else to go with these. And she's holding up some of the clothes that she has in her hand. Can you help me find, a blouse or, a few things? So Jennifer proceeds to go over and help her pick out a few more things to add to the things in her hand, and walk and escorted her to the dressing room. Mm-hmm. Showed her where the dressing rooms were. And so I'm still in the department straightening the racks and putting clothes away. And Jennifer comes back out, and we have several people that we're helping at the same time. So yes. We're out there working.
You're multitasking.
You're multitasking, exactly. And so as I'm talking to other people walking by and looking at the things on the racks and wanting to try things on, I'm helping and assisting other people. So the woman that came up to her and asked her to help her find something came out of the dressing room, had an outfit on a few minutes later, and asked if if she could have anything. She said, I would like to know if there's anything I can do about these panty lines, mm-hmm. which she had on a white capri pant. Mm-hmm. And she was explaining to us that she was going out to dinner and she was going to a comedy show in the French Quarter, and wanted to know what could she do about these panty lines. And so Jennifer says to her, well, we have the seamless panties that you could wear. In other words, they're like a fabric that clings to your body, but it doesn't have
it won't make a mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're smooth, and so they would be seamless pantyhose. Mm. And she says, well, I don't really like those. For some reason, she didn't like that panty, that mm-hmm. option. And so I'm standing there and I just look at her and I said, there's a couple of options actually that you could do. And one of which would be you could wear a thong where it covers the front and it has no panty line in the back. You have, it looks like you're not wearing anything at all with the no panty lines, right? Yeah. With a thong. And I don't like that too much. I don't feel comfortable wearing thongs. And I said, well, then the other option would be to wear nothing at all. You wear a little pad. Yeah. Because there are people that, you wear the little pad in the pants.
Yeah.
And just wear nothing at all when you have white.
Yeah.
White shows everything.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times I recommend you go up a size with white.
Yeah.
Because it shows. That's why everybody loves black.
Yeah.
Black
covers a lot.
It covers it all up. Yeah. Exactly. You look flawless in black.
Yeah.
Because it's more forgiving. But with white tends to show everything. And so I always tell my clients you can go up a size and you don't have it clinging to you, and you don't mm-hmm. you don't have that problem. But a lot of times they don't want to go up a size.
Yeah.
As you well know, I told you that if they're an 8, they don't want to go up to a 10.
Exactly.
But in some cases,
I'm living that right now.
Yes. You have to go up a size.
Yeah.
You don't want it clinging to your body. And she said, well, she said, I don't really like that option. I would not be comfortable wearing nothing at all. And I said, well, okay, so there is something else that I, would share with you about no panty lines. And I said, so if you don't like those options, I said, well, you could try wearing pantyhose. And when you wear the pantyhose, you cut off the feet of the pantyhose. And she's like, what? I said, the pantyhose gives you the smooth look. It has a little panty panel.
Yeah.
but you have no panty lines.
Yeah.
So you have comfort. You have the smooth, the flawless look without panty line look. It smooths out everything, right? And you can wear the capris because you would wear an open-toe shoe with no panties showing. Pantyhose cover the foot.
Yeah.
So you would cut the pantyhose. Well, she says to me, won't the pantyhose run up the leg? I said, well, the pantyhose, if it does roll up a little bit, you just put a rubber band there to hold it down. And it won't roll up any further.
Yeah.
Just put the rubber band there.
But I'm just thinking, you say a rubber band. It's like, where do you get rubber bands big enough to go on your thigh?
Well, they have rubber bands. And okay, so this becomes another conversation. So as she listens to what I said to her, how to cut the pantyhose, put the rubber band so that it doesn't roll up. And I said, you need to try it. It works. And she says, I might try that. She says, okay. So she goes back into the dressing room, and then she comes back out with the items that she's going to purchase. Jennifer walks over to the register to ring up this customer. So as she's talking to Jennifer about the things she's taken and the things she's not taken, Jennifer begins to ring her up, her sale, and her package. And so I'm standing there, and she begins to ask me more questions. As I'm hanging up clothes, I'm standing there at the counter, and it's a space where we hang the clothes and then we fix them on the hangers correctly. Like some clothes are just thrown on the floor. We got to pick them up and re-hang them up, zip them up, and all that. Okay, fix them and then put them back out on the floor.
Yeah.
So that's what I was standing there doing. In the meantime, she's checking this lady out, this customer. So the customer is asking me, so tell me about the rubber bands. What kind of rubber bands should I try? And I said, you could try the wide bands. Like when you get mail or something, the post office will put, in a business, the post office will rubber band all your mail together and deliver it to the business, right? I said, so there's a little thicker rubber band that would work, which holds it perfectly. Or, you could go with a little thinner band, but you might have to wrap it twice. They may be a little bit longer, but thinner. That'll work as well. And that'll hold, you sure that'll hold it down? She's asking all these questions, and I'm giving her the detail information. And I'm thinking to myself, and I wrote this in the book, why is she asking me all these questions? What kind of pantyhose should I get? I mean, are they regular pantyhose? Are they controlled top pantyhose? I said, well, the support pantyhose would be perfect because it gives you the support that you want. Hugs in the tummy. And if you have little rolls, some people have little rolls that the panty lines would show, that it cuts you in a certain area that's not real flattering. What the pantyhose will do is make that smooth. Yeah. Okay? And it makes you toner. So you don't have the little rolls or little pockets, like the little rolls over the panty lines. Yeah. That's why the pantyhose and the support pantyhose are the best when you're wearing them underneath your clothes. And she says, you know what? I'm going to try that. She says, but I'm going to go down into the hosiery department first and go see if Saks has those kind of pantyhose. I said, nobody has those pantyhose. There's nobody, no company that sells them. That I do know. And I have researched it. There are no pantyhose out there. Now, they have leggings, and they have hose. We sell pantyhose. That's why I'm saying you have to cut the pantyhose to make them. Yes. And she's like, well, I'm going to check where is your hosiery department? I said, it's on the first floor. But there are none. We don't have any there. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to check, and I'm going to see if there's any in that department. But thank you. I appreciate your help. Thank you so much. And left the department. So she I said to Jennifer, as she was standing at the counter, a light went off in the customer's face when she got it. And
Wow.
I said to Jennifer, I said, she was asking me detailed questions, and I just gave her the answers to those questions. What did I just do? What am I thinking?
Gave away your $1 million idea.
I think it registered and she got it.
Yeah.
And Jennifer's like, DeDe. She's like, come on, DeDe. She says, you're overthinking it. No, DeDe, you're overthinking this.
Yeah.
I said, Jennifer, I told her everything. Trust me, I told her everything. She asked the detailed questions. And I saw when she got it. Now, let me just say this. I said, she just came from a shopper conference where they have motivational speakers. And they are excited and they are pumped up with ideas and pumped up with this motivational speaker for their conference. And she asked me direct questions about my idea. Yeah. And I gave it to her. I spoke everything to her. And she's like, no, DeDe, let it go, DeDe. No. No, DeDe. She didn't get nothing, DeDe. I said, Jennifer, I feel in my gut. I mean, I literally almost started crying. It was like I was depleted. You know how I was feeling sick all this time and everything? Yeah. Something happened to me in my stomach. I felt it. I just felt it. Something's not right. And she's like, okay, you got to let this go. Stop this. And I said, I don't know, Jen. I just know something's wrong. Something happened. I just know there's something going on here. I said, too much. I opened my mouth. I said, too much. And she's like, okay, no, I don't believe that. And so we ended the day, okay? We ended the day, and I went home, and I was just, like, upset at myself, and I just went home, and I just, like, had to let this go. And so I don't know, how to say this, but I'm going and I'm planning this trip, and I'm going out of town. My sister's getting married, and I'm going to church, and everything is like, everything I'm just going through these tests and going through my health issues and going to work and taking care of the children. And it's been about a year now. It's 9 months of going through the test to be diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And it happens to be 2 blood disorders. And so there's really nothing they can do because there's no cure. And so I'm taking all these medications now to, like, iron to build up my immune system. Yes. Steroids. I'm going to have IVs of iron because my body is not absorbing it with the pill. And so more tests, more work as far as my health goes, more treatments to try to get me to get well and at least get me to a point where I'm not passing out and I have more energy to live my life normally. So they're doing everything they can possibly think of, and I have 6 or 7 doctors on my case now at this point. So I'm still struggling, working, being a single mom, and my product is on the back burner for now. Until there's a day I'm going to the airport. We left church. My friend Mary's in the front seat. My children are in the back seat. And I go to the airport to pick up my tickets. And while I'm there at the airport, I pick up the tickets, and we're exiting the airport, and I'm at a red light. And it's about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night at the airport. I hear screeching as though I'm sitting at the light. I see headlights in my rearview mirror. And I'm realizing I'm going to be hit. There's a truck that's coming behind me, and it's not stopping.
Wow.
And he's tweaking the brakes, hitting the brakes, but the truck is not stopping. It's coming for us, straight for us. And I freeze and hold on to the steering wheel and the brake. And the impact, bam, it hits us.
Wow.
My 2 children in the back seat, my little son flew up to the front seat, in the seatbelt now, flew out of the seatbelt. My friend who was sitting in the front seat, Mary, hit the windshield dashboard and head back. My daughter, again, hit the back of the front seat. And I grabbed onto the steering and the brake and braced myself. And on impact. And I hit and jolted my neck and back.
Wow.
And we just sat there. And of course, it's at the airport. And it was like a bus, one of those buses for
that pick up the
shuttles.
Passengers. Yeah. Shuttle buses.
Pumping, and the brakes gave away. No brake.
Wow. And
so she hit the car. My car, I had a Diamante. It split, like the frame of the Diamante was cracked.
Wow.
The weight of the vehicle cracked the frame of my car. So the police came, ambulances came. I checked on my children. They were hysterical. My friend Mary was okay. When the impact hit us, they moved with the impact. I froze.
That was the worst thing you could do.
Yes, I froze.
Yeah.
So I went home. Nobody went to the hospital in the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
We all seemed to be okay, except for I was sore and in pain.
Yeah.
I just knew the pain hit me right away, but I knew that I wasn't going to the hospital, and I wasn't with my kids. So we went home. After the police came, they looked underneath the vehicle. They were investigators because it's on the airport's property. Mm-hmm. They checked the car to see if there was any bombs or anything. I don't know what they were checking for, but they had maybe 30 people out there.
Wow.
It was like this big accident, it was a lot. And because there were children involved, and because it was a shuttle bus, and because it was the airport, it was like a movie, scene.
Exactly.
But we were okay until I realized in the morning. I got the kids up. Everybody was sore. Mm-hmm. I got out of bed barely. I rolled out of bed, and I had excruciating pain in my neck and in my back.
Yeah.
And everything was challenging, like to get my shoes on. Couldn't wear heels. I had to wear flats.
Yeah.
My clothes, I had a hard time putting my clothes on. I was sore. I was hurting. But I got dressed. Put a little bit of mascara on, lipstick and blush. That's it. Put my hair in a ponytail, and I got the kids to school. And my daughter was suffering with her back, saying that her school bag, which they do all the time, load these children up with school bag, bag full of books.
Yep.
If they're going to suffer with their backs because of it, because of how many books they allow these children to carry. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous how many books are in those book sacks.
And you know what? Because my daughter goes to Willow, and every day we get there pretty early because with my disability, I can't stand to sit in traffic. So we have to leave the house before 7 to get on the freeway. Because of my disability, I can't stand to be stuck in traffic. To me, that's like sitting in a parking lot.
Yes.
And it's like on a freeway, you're supposed to be moving. I want to move. So if I have to leave a little earlier, and we'll have to sit there at the school until it's time for her to go in, we do every day. But my God, I forgot what was I saying?
We were talking about the school bag and the books.
Yeah, the school bag. While we're sitting there in the morning, I'm watching all of these kids pass with these book bags on their backs, just loaded down. And I asked my
Yeah.
daughter one day, I was like, y'all don't have lockers? She said, yeah, we have lockers, but we can't use them because it's like they have only so much time they allow between classes, and they get in trouble if they're late to a class.
Yes, that's right.
So it's like,
oh yeah,
oh my
Can you imagine?
God.
I mean, I don't remember having book sacks that had to be all those
No.
books
And
in
I don't
there
remember having
every day.
I don't remember having that, which is good in one way, but it's like, because we had a lot of time between classes, so we had time to go to our locker and get whatever books we needed for the next class. But they don't have time to go to their lockers. And it was the same way when she was in middle school. They don't have time to go to their. I was like, well, what's the point of even having a locker?
Right. And they bring all those books home.
Yes.
And carry them on their back.
Yes.
Which causes injury to your baby.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still growing.
Exactly.
Right?
So I mean, but
one of the issues.
The good thing is now they have laptops too, so they're not carrying books. They can do the work on the laptop, but still the backpacks are too full.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my daughter had to carry the backpack, and that's when she realized her back was bothering her.
Yeah.
Because she also was a volleyball player, so she couldn't play.
Ooh.
She was injured, but yet she felt better. We went to physical therapy for a couple. We ended up having to go to. Well, this is what happened actually. The next day, I went to work. Mm-hmm. After the accident, I was getting ahead of myself. The next day, when I went to work and I was ringing up a sale, my supervisor, Denise, was standing next to me. Mm-hmm. And I put my head down at the register. And all of a sudden, like the pain hit me in my neck. It's like I couldn't move.
Wow.
And the tears were coming down my face. And Denise is looking at me. I'm not moving. I'm stiff. And I'm standing there. And she's like, Delores, what's going on? What are you doing? I said, I can't move. I can't move my neck. The neck is stuck. I have a spasm. I can't move. She's
my
like, what?
God.
What? What happened to you? I said, I had an accident last night. I was crying. I can't move. I said, I just had a spasm and I can't move my neck. She's like, oh no, wait, you didn't go to the hospital. I said, no, I can't go. I didn't go. I said, no. I said, but I just had a spasm when I put my head down. I can't move my neck.
Wow.
Oh God, help me. And the lady's looking at me, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And she's like, come here. She's like taking me to the room. She's, sit down. She says, you got to go to the hospital. You can't work like this. I said, Denise, I wasn't in this much pain last night. I would have went if I had this much pain. I said, but I was stiff.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, I barely could get dressed.
Yeah.
I said, but I turned my head down when I tilted it. Mm-hmm. I had this spasm. Mm-hmm. And I could not move my neck. Yeah. For fear of more pain. It's excruciating pain. Yeah. And I just was bawling. I mean, I was just bawling. And so she said, okay, I got to get Robert on the phone, tell your husband to come and get you, and take you to the hospital. You got to go. And so she called my ex-husband.
Again.
This is crazy, but again, Robert came to the rescue.
Yeah.
And he took me to the emergency room.
Wow.
And I had lots of tests, x-rays. They did a CAT scan. And so come to find out, I've got ruptured and herniated disc in my neck and in my back.
Oh, God.
So now I'm dealing with chronic pain on top of everything else that's going on. Chronic pain, where I'm crying out to God. Help me, God, help me. Can't help me, God. The pain is so bad. It's so bad. Crying like a baby.
They didn't give you anything for the pain?
Oh, yeah. Yes. And you know what I was saying?
What?
Give me drugs. now, before the 4 hours was up. Give me drugs, please. Give me pain medicine, please. My daughter had a schedule, and I was taking pain medicine around the clock.
Wow.
I could not walk. I could not bend. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't dress myself. I was having spasm after spasm. You know what's funny? I am sitting here and I'm having a spasm in my back right now just talking about it.
Wow.
It's like your body reacts to familiar things. Talking about it, feeling it, it's like my nerve in my back just had a spasm. So this is a pain, and I deal with this because it flares up every now and then. When I overdo things, like in the garden, I can't do the garden work anymore.
Yeah.
Or certain ways I sleep. I could sneeze and throw my back out. I never had surgery. So I've lived with this. But this was a flare-up that literally paralyzed me. Like I could not do things for myself. So on top of the blood disorder, on top of the fatigue, and the passing out stuff. Now I was dealing with chronic pain in the neck, in the back, and I was not stable to even undergo any surgery. If I could have surgery, my blood counts were so sporadic that no one would operate on me. I was too risky a patient. So now I got to live with this pain and live with the chronic condition. And it would just get to where I'd have spasms and everything. Well, guess what? I had to leave SACS. I started off with short-term disability. From that accident, I never returned back to SACS from that accident.
Oh, wow.
The next day after the accident, it took me out of retail. It was very serious. You know, I endured that pain probably because of steroids I was on for the blood disorder.
Yeah.
I had no idea the damage that was done to me that night until I moved my neck in a certain position. And then it was all over.
Yeah.
The pain came on all of a sudden, and it didn't let up. So, and they gave me shots in the emergency room. I was like, had four different pain shots. I was out of my misery. I mean, they had to give me all this pain medicine to relieve the pain I was in. It was so bad. So then I had this condition that I had to deal with now, going to doctors for that. And so during this time, that just excruciating pain. I left SACS, trying to remember, and went on to disability, short term. Did my therapy, was taking therapy and going through whatever therapy I was going through for the neck and the pain in my lower back, going to the doctor's appointments for that, and wanting to go back to work. You know, talking to my supervisor, you know, this is temporary. I'm just going to work through this and get myself together and all of this. But you know what I'm realizing is what took me out of the retail, before the accident, I went ahead of myself, was when the event that happened, going back to the
convention,
extraordinary day. So that year and a half or so after I met that customer, right before the accident, was when I found out that during this time, there's something that happened as well that came out with the name of the product. A story that I'm not allowed or at liberty to tell you today, verbally, but it's in the book. Because it would be too damning to say.
Yeah.
But I will say that the extraordinary day and how the book starts and begins is when I find out that the decimal point in the store at Saks Fifth Avenue is on a high, and there are people that are congregating, and here I am, that ordinary day, getting to work, rushing across town to go drop the children off, and coming to work at Saks and making sure I clock in on time. Mm-hmm. And standing there at the elevator waiting, and the clock is ticking, and I'm thinking, okay, I can't wait any longer. I'm going to have to take the escalator up to the second floor to get to the clock to punch in on time. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to be late, and I don't want to reprimanded for my tardiness, because God knows I got to get to work, and I need my job.
Exactly.
And so I'm going up the escalator, and I'm getting up to the second floor, and I'm getting into the computer, and I register, and I clock in, and thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. I made it on time. And so I'm looking at everybody, and I'm like, where's everybody? What's everybody doing over there? They're over there congregating at the counter. I'm like, what's going on? What's got everybody in a tizzy? Mm-hmm. So I walked my way over there, trying to get close up to the counter to see what's the fuss about. What's everybody talking about? And I look, and I see there's a video. And I hear a voice that I remember hearing and knowing in my heart of hearts. I heard that voice before I even saw the person. Mm-hmm. And I look over at that screen, and I see a video of someone talking about a new revolutionary product that hit the store, the Saks Fifth Avenue store. Wow. And everybody's excited, and everybody's talking about it and asking, how would you like to be the person who came up with this idea? As I'm looking at the person on that screen, the person the customer that I spoke to in person at Saks Fifth Avenue. The person that I described my idea to in detail was now talking about it as she was the person who, with that idea. Yeah. The idea that I had been working on.
That she stole.
That she used. So I know heaven came down to earth because I prayed, God, help me. Help me, Lord. This isn't happening. When I realized what was happening, this was devastating. Yeah. A devastating blow to an already frail life that was hanging on by a thread. That, Lord, this is the one that could take me out today. This is something that I don't know that I can and that I'm capable of getting over. You are going to have to help me get through this extraordinary day. As I was breaking down, inside of me was a volcano erupting with emotion. Like, this isn't happening. This didn't happen. This is not happening. As I am, it's unbelievable that this isn't happening. No, Lord, this isn't happening. So I am like holding on by a thread this day as I go back and forth to the dressing room with my stained makeup stained face, tears flowing as I'm trying to, I'm trying to hold on and to get through the day, get through this experience of the day, what has just happened here, which nobody knows what's going on with me except for me and God, right? And I'm like praying, God, help me, because this is devastating, and I don't know if I could handle this. I cannot believe what I'm seeing and hearing. As I was trying to keep my composure, people are talking to me and asking me, wow, what a great idea. Wow, this is a great idea.
Yeah.
I wish I would have thought of it. All of these comments, and I'm hearing all these voices, and I'm thinking, is this the devil? Like, this is the devil himself? Like, he's trying to take me out? Because this will do it. This will do it, Lord. How is this possible? How did this happen? And I'm like, devastated, beyond devastation. I don't know if I could live through this. To express it, you're going to have to read the book. But this is a devastation, an extraordinary day where I realized who this person is, what she did, and the idea, whose idea it was. I know this. And it is not the person who's speaking on that television.
On that commercial.
That loop, yes, that was going on in our store, that I had to sell it, I had to talk about it, and be excited about it.
Yeah.
When inside of me, I was crushed. My spirit was broken.
Yeah. Because you would, as much as you had been through, that was like one more thing that you didn't need to happen to you. That was like the worst ever. But
this is the devil's plan, to kill, to steal, and destroy.
Oh, definitely. And there are people who are doing the devil's work.
Yes.
People think...
Because the devil uses people just like God uses
Oh,
people.
yes. People think when you say devil, the devil isn't walking around in a red costume with horns and a tail. The devil uses people, and and some of them are very crafty. Very crafty. Like she says, the lady kept asking her questions, intentional questions, that was getting very minute details out of her.
Yes. The details. All in the details.
And she didn't even realize that she was literally handing over her blueprint, the blueprint that God had gave her.
Yes. And this is what my heart is to serve women.
Yes.
This is my job.
Yes.
Women.
And
this is what I do daily.
This person is in it
with women.
Just for the money.
So my whole outlook about this is that the devil was at work to destroy me.
Mm-hmm.
And he used her. Mm-hmm. And he tormented me with it.
By letting you see that.
But that wasn't the only thing. That what I want the reader to know, and I want you to know this in the interview, was that I had a television screen that played every day, all day, of a testimony of my idea. And she describes it and how all of it came about. And I had to hear it play over and over and over again, as though he wasn't satisfied with what was done, but that torment, the job of the devil is to torment us as Christians with it.
Yep.
It's not just that it was taken.
Yep.
Or that it was used, but it was to torment me with it.
Yep.
Because that's what it was, a torment. And I had to face it daily. I had to sell it daily. So
the store actually started carrying those.
Yes, it was in the store. Once it hit the screen, once it hit the TV screen, and that was like the new and greatest new thing, revolutionary
in women's undergarments.
Yes. Yes. And within a year and a half, it was in the store.
Wow.
Now, that's not how long I've been working on it, but that's how long it took her.
Yeah.
Because she had everything, it was already a done deal.
Wow.
And that was all the research that went into it is my experience working in retail with women all these years.
Yeah.
And I have 30 plus years of retail experience.
That you can prove.
That I have been in retail that long, yes.
Whereas she was just coming from a marketing conference. Shopper. Office supply. Shopper conference.
Yes. So after that, and then the accident, which I kind of went forward a little bit, but the accident happened shortly after I found out about this. And that's what took me out of Saks, was that accident.
Wow.
But that nearly took me out, like literally almost killed me. If I held on to that, this is what I want you to understand too. I was going to my pastor and I was telling them what happened and how can I do this? I can't do this. I'm sick. I'm a single mom. I don't have the energy to fight. I don't have the energy to do anything anymore. I need my strength. I need to focus on God, and God has to help me get through the most challenging and adversity in my life that I've ever faced. And I don't know that I can do it. Yeah. Without God, I can't do nothing. But I need Him to help me through this. Yeah. And I know that His Word says I need to forgive, but I'm having a hard time forgiving. I've been betrayed. I feel like this is, something happened here that was wrong, and it was unjust. How do I face this? How do I go to work? How do I be happy for this person? You have to pray. You have to pray for forgiveness. You have to pray and ask God to take it from you. Because this could kill you. This could, if you allow it to. Wow. Because if you let this torment you, if you let this, the way you say it affects you, my pastor would say, let's pray. But all you have to do is give it to God. Yeah. I said, yeah, that's an easy thing to say, but that's not reality for me. It's hard to let that go. It's hard to let
really
go
is.
And pray.
It really
for forgiveness.
is. Yep. For something you feel like was done to you.
The one to forgive?
Exactly.
Why?
When you were the one that was wrong.
He was like, you know what? Sometimes look at Jesus. If you picture Jesus,
exactly,
and all the injustice that was done to him.
Yeah, because he did no wrong.
Exactly. And so he said, you're going to have to pray and ask God to show you why this happened. Yeah. I don't have the answer to you, DeDe. I don't know why God allowed this to happen. Yeah. But what I do know is we serve a mighty God, and if He gave you one idea, He'll give you another one.
Exactly.
I said, but that isn't the point. You don't understand how I worked on this, how I researched it, how all the work that I went into this. For what? Why? I sacrificed being with my family. I sacrificed going to bed at a decent hour. I did a lot of things. Yeah. And to give this to somebody to use this and come out with this and beat me to it?
Exactly.
How is that possible?
That's not fair at all.
How does God allow it?
But you know what? Life ain't fair.
We don't know the answer, he would tell me. But we need to pray and ask God to show you. So I had to pray through this. I had to sell it. And it followed me. Every retail store I worked in, it was there.
Yeah.
And how it was a big hit, it was because of the research and because of the women and knowing the need to serve and help women. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
From my working with women.
Yeah.
And because I'm a Christian and I love women, I love working with them and talking to them and connecting with them on a personal level.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my clients became friends. They would take me and my daughter and my son out to dinner.
Yeah.
At Galatoire's and Vicky Brennan's and, you know, all the well-to-do restaurants in New Orleans, because they appreciated me and appreciated who I was.
Yeah.
And dressing them.
Yeah.
And being a part of their lives. They would tell me stories about their family and their children. And I would tell them about my children, how they were doing and everything. So we had relationship. And this person wasn't a client. This person was a customer.
Yeah. Who
came into the store, and opportunists who took advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
And that's how the book starts. I go into detail of that extraordinary day, describing to the reader my feelings and what happened to me that moment I found out. And I was crushed. I was broken. And I was crying out to God to help me through it.
Yeah.
And my daughter in the book has a chapter as she describes what she experienced with me during the time of researching it, during the time of finding out that it was
already on the market.
Yes. And the day I came home on that extraordinary day, that I had no words to say.
Yeah.
I couldn't speak.
And didn't you even say that you had mentioned there was a celebrity, a popular celebrity on TV that had a complaint about not being able to wear
yes, that was Oprah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know whether we could say her name.
Right. Thank you for reminding me about that, because I did go into the lounge during this conference. I went up to the lounge and took a break. You know, we took our little 15-minute break to go up to get something to drink or a snack or something, and then go to the bathroom and come back down. And during my break, I went up to the lounge, and Oprah's show was on.
Yeah.
And, well, the perfect timing was with her being on the show. One of the things I overheard while I was in the lounge was her explaining and apologizing to her audience that she had lifted her leg up and she had a pantyhose that she cut the pantyhose, the feet out of the pantyhose. She was wearing footless pantyhose. She was wearing them, where she cut the pantyhose and apologized because she raised her leg and exposed it, and the camera saw it. You know, the audience saw it, and her audience sitting there saw it. And so she was apologetic to them. And I thought, there's my sign. Bam. There's my sign that God gave me, that this is the time. Now is the time to come out with this idea. Now, if an influential person like Oprah is doing what I've been doing
for years,
then if she does it, then we know there's a need and that these women want this product.
Exactly.
There's a need for it. And this will help the fashion industry tremendously.
Yes. And you had actual experience working with women in the fashion industry, and you saw all the things you saw in those dressing rooms, really personal things. You saw the scars and the bruises, and you heard the stories and saw the tears. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And then to know somebody that just came in, like you say, an opportunist.
Yes. And so with that, I went down and I was excited about it, and I told Jennifer about it, that I saw this on the show that next day. And Jennifer's like, really? Delores, really? I said, yes, Jennifer, you're not going to believe it. I saw that today, which tells me that is the greatest idea.
Yeah.
Right? If Oprah's doing it, I know it's going to go over well. I know people need this.
Exactly.
And so we were laughing and talking about it, and in the department, not realizing there was someone else in that department. And something Jennifer said to me about a business that she had an idea for the name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not gonna share that with you today.
You'll have to read the book to find out the name.
You'll have to get the book. But Jennifer said the name of the business that was behind my house. And
it's an unusual name, but it fits the product perfectly.
And because that business drew in a lot of business for ladies. Mm-hmm. It was ladies' night on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And women drink for free. Mm-hmm. So there'd be a lot of men there.
Yeah.
And women there.
Yeah.
And where I lived, they would park on the neutral ground and park down the street. But what was unpleasant for me on Thursday nights was the men would urinate in my garden. I'd come home and they'd be urinating in my garden, or I'd find beer bottles and empty cups, trash thrown on my lawn that I would clean up after.
Yeah.
So it was a nuisance to me.
Yeah.
This business.
Yeah.
And loud music and dealing with people like I had one time a peeping Tom. Somebody peeping in the window.
Really?
You know, yep.
Wow.
Walking down the street, stopped. I guess they saw a shadow of a woman behind the blinds and tried to peek in because I left the window open a little bit and see if they could sneak a peek.
I didn't know that still existed. People still do that?
Yes, it does. In fact, there was a peeping Tom in the neighborhood, and we had a notice on the door that the police were aware.
Oh, wow.
And to lock the doors and close the windows or the curtains.
Wow.
Oh, yes. Because there was a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming out.
Yeah.
So you have to get the book to hear the rest.
Yes, and as you've heard,
it's exciting. It's wonderful to be able to write about this, and it's free to share these stories.
Yes, her realities.
From a victorious point of view, not a victim point of view.
Yep.
And I want the reader to understand that.
And this is her first book.
Healed me.
Yes.
And so there's a lot in here, a lot of detailed information. I can't say I gave a lot of information because Bree given me so much time and her generosity in letting me share this story.
Yep.
And I am so grateful to you for that. And I praise the Lord for us to meet.
That's why
I'm here. To be able to share this exciting new step of writing a book.
Exactly.
And being able to now verbally speak about it.
Yeah. And that's free.
I've been writing it. Yes, I've been writing it over a decade now, spread out at least a decade of writing.
Wow.
And now we're to the final manuscript.
That's a long time to carry this burden.
Yes.
And not be able to speak about certain things.
Exactly. And what I've been able to do is heal from all of this and heal from a lot of this.
Yeah. Well, it's almost over, girl.
God showed me. We're not just going to talk about this. We are going to go deep into like the heart of an onion, peeling back the layers of that onion.
Yep.
Because I went from telling the story to changing my writing style from a stream of consciousness to dialogue.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother level of creative writing.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
For me personally.
As members of the writing group, that's stretching you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to be able to write about these things that are difficult to talk about, much less write about it.
Yeah.
The writing was healing to me. And therapeutic, or however you want to describe it. And that was the whole thing with God asking me to share my testimonies,
Yes.
to write this book,
Yes.
was that I was going to be made whole.
Yep.
That he promised, if you go through this process, and he has a plan and a purpose for everything in my life that has happened.
Yours and everybody else's.
Yes. And this was a promise that he made to me, though, when I said yes to the call.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have stories. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, yes. Everybody, if you have a life, you have a story.
Exactly. But it's like, do you want to talk about things on the surface? There's a lot of books that are on the surface that just touch on things.
Yeah.
But what God was saying, we're going to go deeper.
Give them the meat.
Yes. He says, you're going to go, and he took me places that I never even knew that I could go.
Yeah.
Or never even wanted to go.
Yeah.
Never chose to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's called growth.
Yes, and what I realized, though, is that I was getting lighter.
Yeah.
By writing about this.
Yeah.
That heaviness, that burden that I was carrying, because God says, his yoke is easy and his burden is light.
Yep.
We weren't designed to carry the heaviness.
No, ma'am.
Some of these stories are heavy, I will say. They are.
Yep.
To me, there's a lot of drama here.
Mm-hmm.
Christian drama.
Yep.
Good drama.
Yep. This could be a movie.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was told that by a screenwriter. She wants the manuscript.
Yeah. I would sign off on it.
I have no limits on what God's going to do.
Exactly. You never know.
I just know that I was going to be obedient to God calling me to write and tell my story.
Exactly.
But the funny thing about it is, when I finished writing the book and I went to talk to the publishing house, the publishing house told me that I could not say the name.
Yeah.
And I could not say the product name. And I could not say what this person did.
But you know what? Everybody, unless you've been living under a rock, everybody knows this product.
Well, and the thing is, for me, as a person who is healing from this, who has shared this story, I thought that was my vindication, right? To be able to talk about it now, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't go after, I didn't attack and didn't go in a battle. I was fighting for my life when all of this happened.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that how corrupt, how unjust things happen in this world, this fallen world that we live in.
Yeah. That
the world, this is the world that we live in. This is a corrupt world.
Very.
And we are different than the world as Christians.
We're the light.
We're in it, but we're not of it.
Yep. We're the light.
We are the light.
They're living in darkness.
We handle things differently than other people. And we make mistakes, and we're not perfect by no means.
Yeah.
But there is a struggle, and there is a struggle of right and wrong.
Yes, it is.
Truth and the lie.
Yeah.
And we choose what is true, right? What is righteous.
Yeah.
Handling our affairs.
Yeah.
And we have God on our side.
Exactly.
And
that's all we need.
Be against us, right?
That's all we need.
That's all we need.
In the Bible,
and
think about the Israelites. Who brought them out of Egypt? God. And God even had the Egyptians give the Israelites everything they needed for their journey to the promised land. So it's like, whatever. She may have thought, she may have thought she's getting away with something. She ain't getting away with nothing. No, she gonna pay for everything she got coming back to her.
Well, God sees everything.
Yep, he sits high, but he sees low.
That's right. And, he's the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah.
The beginning and the end. So we know this story isn't over yet.
Nope.
Right?
This is just the beginning. This is the beginning credits.
I know that we can give God glory. For every story in my book, I thank God that he is in my life. That he is everything to me.
Yep.
Because without him, I know that I would not be here today. I know that.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned about the fire, going through the fire.
Uh-huh.
I'm going ahead of you. But you can ask me that question.
Hold on.
Your question?
Yeah, hold on. Let me get the goodness. Okay, I'm just gonna wing it because I oh no, here it is. Since we didn't do the normal question and answer interview on this one, I found a paper. In closing,
okay.
DeDe, what
now,
does
let
being...
me ask you real quick. Are you ready for the closing?
This is the closing. I'm gonna play the song. I'm gonna have to add that in later, but the song that I found is so fitting for the story that she told about her idea that had been stolen.
But you can't say that.
No.
Well, you can say I can't say it. I can't.
Okay, it was stolen.
I can't say that.
Okay, in closing, DeDe, what does being refined by the fires mean to you? And would you say that you've been refined by the fires?
What I would like to say to you and to the audience is that everything that has happened and everything I shared in this book,
yes,
that it is God that brought me through the fire.
Yep.
When I was at my lowest.
Yep.
And I asked God to help me through every single adversity, every single trial in my life. He was there.
Yeah.
He was with me through it all. And I am grateful and I thank him and I love him because I know that God's word says he will never leave you nor forsake you. In those trials, thanking him for those trials because he's real. He existed. All those things that happened.
Yeah, the good and the bad.
Right there with me.
Yeah.
And he loved me through it.
Yeah.
Even in my weaknesses, he made me strong.
Yeah.
He never gave up on me. He never abandoned me.
No.
He was with me. He held me when I cried myself to sleep. He is with me now.
Yeah.
In this next step, in giving this out, just telling my story and sharing and opening my life up as an open book. Things that I'm not so proud of.
Everybody has stuff they're not proud of.
I'm proud of him. I'm proud of who he is in my life and who he is. Mm-hmm. Through it all.
Through it all.
He showed up.
Yep.
He showed up beautifully.
Showed up and showed out.
In so many ways, he rescued me.
Yes.
In so many ways, he healed me. In so many ways, he took care of me.
Yes.
He provided for me.
Yes.
He was my husband.
Yeah.
He was my all. And so, yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't do life without him.
Nope.
And I'm grateful for the person who he is, he's made in me.
Yeah.
The character in me, the Christ-like character in me, as I'm still growing and learning.
Yeah.
And maturing in the Lord.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning of my journey as an author in sharing my story. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's in the future. Yeah. But I know now who I am in Christ and the love of God got me through all this. Mm-hmm. It was him. To give him glory. Yeah. For my good. Yeah. He did it for my good.
All those bad things that happen.
Yes.
He turns them around for your good. All the tears you cried, he's going to make that worth your while. When you look back, you're going to be like, oh, wow, that's why I went through that. Yeah. It'll all be worth it in the end. Praise God.
Yes.
Praise God. He's the God of all good. And he uses...
weeping will endure in the night,
but joy cometh in the morning. Yep. So whatever bad you're
He
going
is.
through, God will turn it around. He'll make bad
Yes.
things that happen in your life. He'll turn them around and work them out for the good because he's
Yes.
a good God. God don't do
Amen.
bad things to us. God allows
That's right.
bad things to happen to us to make us into who he originally created us to be. If
Yes.
bad things are happening in your life, it's not because he's trying to punish you. He's trying to make you into the creature that he originally designed. And
Yes.
you're not going by the outline that was laid out for you. You're not following the master plan. So sometimes he has to allow things to happen to us.
Yes.
In order to get us back in track and get us back headed the right way. Because you always want to be headed the right way. Yeah.
Well, and he's faithful, even when we're unfaithful.
Exactly.
He's faithful.
Exactly.
And he wants us to be faithful to him and to love him.
Yeah.
And to read his word, because that's the transformation comes from the word of God.
Yes.
Because we're not, ourselves. Like, I gave my life to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in that, I need to grow in Christ. I need to learn his character.
Yeah.
Because when I learn his character, it changes my character.
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to be more like Christ.
Yeah.
When I handle people. Because I know he loves those people that have wronged me.
Yeah.
That I've been there's been unjust things that have happened.
Yeah.
But God loved them. Loves them anyway.
Yeah.
Even though they hurt me.
Exactly.
And who am I not to forgive? Because he's forgiven me of much. Those who are forgiven of much, love much.
Mm-hmm.
And receive forgiveness, and they give it to others.
Yes.
So that's how he teaches.
Yeah.
It's not like the world's way.
Nope.
An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I mean, it used to be that way before Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You kill somebody, you're going to die.
Yeah. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Yeah. So for us, we have grace.
Yeah.
God has given us grace. There's times where I could have died. I should have died because I sinned.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we to hold unforgiveness?
Yep.
We have to let it go.
Yeah.
And let God handle it for us.
Wow.
And so that I am forever grateful knowing that nobody gets away with nothing.
Because God sits high and he sees low.
That's right. And every knee shall bow and every confess that Jesus is Lord.
Yep.
And a lot of times people don't have Jesus as Lord in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I needed Jesus to be my Lord and Savior to get through some of the challenges that I had to endure in writing this book.
Yep.
And Jesus showed up.
Yep.
He is my Lord and Savior.
Yes, ma'am. All the time.
So I just am thankful to have had this opportunity. To have this opportunity to share with you and your listeners.
You're welcome.
It is a blessing. This is my first time. I know it's a long time. And I will do my best, to start working on sharing a testimony of my book. Yeah. And it be, what do you call it? When you just combined everything. Mm-hmm. The shorter version. Yeah, the Cliff Notes. The Cliff Notes, as you recommended that I do. Yeah. So. Because that's something that I'm going to have to do too. Yeah. And I'm going to have my first. Something that I have to grow into. Yeah. And learn how to do that. Yeah. So. Because the interesting stories are interesting, and I don't want to cut them. I don't want to forget the details. Yeah. In telling the stories, and it's more about. You got to read the book because the details. It's written beautifully to where it plays in a compliment to me as a writer was my grandchildren. For Christmas, I read to them a story to my two grandchildren, 1 9 and 1 11. And the 9-year-old, when I read the story of my childhood and what happened to my father and my mother and all those things that I shared on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
When I read it to my family for the first time, what I wrote about that story, my grandson, who was 8 at the time, said, "Grandma," he says, "I feel so emotional right now.
Yeah.
I almost want to cry, Grandma."
Mm-hmm.
And then my 11-year-old grandson, now these are 2 grandsons, not granddaughters, but grandsons, who heard the story about my mom and dad and how the accident happened and everything.
Yeah.
He says to me, "You know, Grandma, what you just read to me," he says, "I see it. I can visualize it on the screen.
Yeah.
What you were saying, I saw it.
I'm telling you,
on a movie screen."
if you have somebody who's approached you to make a movie or even a play out of this is a big thing, DeDe.
I know. It's like, but that's my out the babe.
Big thing. So see, that's just confirmation. Cause I was thinking, like, this is really big. This could be a multi-million-dollar movie or play that travels the country, the world, if it's a worldwide product. This is big. Yep. Well, girl, I gotta go and pick up my daughter.
I love you, girl.
I love you too, and thank you. You are an inspiration.
I shared my life with you, so I gotta get to know you.
Exactly.
This was a lot.
Exactly.
I appreciate you so
You're
much.
so welcome. I'm glad to be able to do it. I'm glad to share your journey with you and go down a memory lane with you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.